Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning.
I like that. At this time, I'd like to call the Nash County Board of Commissioners meeting for May the 2nd to order. And at the beginning of each of our meetings, we have a prayer by a sitting commissioner. And during that time, you're welcome to stand and join us in that prayer. You're welcome to use it for your own prayer if you like at your seat, or you're welcome to use it for a moment of silence, whichever you desire. And we also very willingly and like to say pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States, and I will call on Commissioner Wayne Outlaw to do that after the prayer. And at this time, I'll call on Commissioner Gwen Wilkins for the invocation. Gwen? Thank you.
Let us pray. Dear God, thank you for the abundance of blessings you have given us. Help us to trust you, even in our darkest times. Help us to forgive those who persecute us. As we handle the business of Nash County today, help us and all of our citizens to keep an open mind and a patient heart as we work and listen together for the growth of Nash County and the good of Nash County. Dear Lord, we ask all this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Would you join us in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioners. At this time, we are on item number 4. And it's the approval of minutes for the previous month, and we had one meeting on April the 4th, and thinking each one of you have had a chance to review those minutes, I would entertain a motion for any changes, any corrections, or approval at this time.
Move for approval.
I have a motion to approve the minutes as submitted. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Wilkins. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. We do have a extensive agenda today, 347 pages I see, and a total of 32 items, which is pretty lengthy for us. Without any objection, I will move pretty quickly. If I'm going too fast for anybody, please call me down. Or pause me just a moment. I know we have a couple commissioners that would probably like to get somewhere else before the day gets too far into it. But
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Is there an addition to the agenda?
It is, sir. I'm going to get to that next.
Thank you.
There will be one addition that I was given this morning I need to add an item 25A, which is an animal shelter capital projects ordinance amendment. And of course, Ms. Wood, if you would present that when we get to that. Any objection to adding 25A to the agenda by Commissioner? Seeing none, stands to be added. And with that said, we're now on item number 5, which is public comment. And at this time, if there's anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to the Board of Commissioners about anything you have on your mind that's not otherwise covered on the agenda, this would be the proper time to do that. If it is a public hearing or something else that has an item number on the agenda, we would ask that you wait until that time. But we do have a sign-up period out front before the meeting starts. Generally try to catch those, and we had one person to sign up this morning. I will call on that person, but if there's someone else after Ms. Battle speaks that wishes to speak that didn't realize you needed to sign up, just let me know at that time, and we'd be glad to hear from you anyway. And at this time, I'd like to call on Ms. Dorothy Battle to come forward. If you would state your name and address for the record, Ms. Battle. Good to see you this morning.
NC 27856. Good morning to all, giving honor to God for our presence and to this governing body of commissioners. I have appealed and complained to Nash County Sheriff's Department since 2017, the Nash County Planning Board since 2018, and the Nash County Commissioners since 2020 about Ted Williams' illegal shooting range on Taylor Store Road near my home. No matter what evidence is brought, Ted Williams gets excused on some technicality. He has called it his shooting range and state he gets paid, and told county lawyers he is one of 3 sites on this road. It was proven by the Nash County Planning Board with video, a website called Force, and admission by Mr. Williams of his actions, yet he received no consequences or charges. He was mandated by the Board of Adjustment to stop using it as a shooting range. He was deemed not guilty of a noise ordinance violation by District Court Judge William Solomon because Nash County Commissioners did not list gunfire as noise, although by his own admission, he had been there shooting from around 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. and just lost track of his time. He told you he trains lawyers, judges, and law enforcement and other officials free of charge. He and Nash County Deputy Rick said under oath that he always calls the department before he goes to the site, and his hours are usually between 9 to 5. There are no legal outdoor shooting ranges in Nash County, just illegal ones. The county saw evidence in February 2022 that he was back operating as usual with clients coming and going from the site. Yet Attorney Whitley said it would be my word and my neighbor's word against Mr. Williams' claims he is a landowner target practicing. Some weeks he is there every day shooting. It has also been stated by the county twice that he had a shooting range set up there, but they don't charge or prosecute for past or subsequent violations. Since 2017, this site has been ongoing and has grown from him renting it to buying part of it. County officials and Sheriff's Department have full knowledge of this. He operates there with no restrictions or time frame. Federal, state, and county laws have been and are being violated. I have stated before and still believe Nash County law enforcement is complicit and permissive in Ted Williams' illegal range. What is the statute of limitation that excuses his shooting range? Yesterday, last week, last month, or back 5 years to 2017, with records and knowledge of his actions. Records are available that prove all the facts I have stated to you again. Yet still he continues as late as yesterday. Why is this allowed? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Battle. Ms. Battle, would you mind at appropriate time giving the clerk a copy of your comments there? Would that bother you any?
I didn't type it out. I scribbled it out.
Okay.
Read my writing sheets well.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak under public comment? Seeing no one, we'll move on.
Chairman.
Mr. Belfield?
That's an issue that been with us now, I guess, 2 years. We need to bring a resolution to it one way or the other. Ms. Bell, I guess she's been up here a dozen times more. And basically, we have not made any kind of decision or recommendation, and I think it's time for us to do it as a Board of Commissioners.
I will take your comments, Mr. Belfield. I'll assure you that we have 2 different attorneys working on this matter, and Mr. Durham wishes to speak on it. As you know, we don't generally speak under public comment.
I started to refer my comments to him, but I thought it was best to refer them to the chair.
Okay. I'll take them, sir, and I appreciate your comment, and believe me, it's not going without due diligence on it, and I will have more conversation with the 2 attorneys before the day's gone again. But if any of you any commissioner wishes to speak to Mr. Durham and get specifics on what we have going on, I would encourage you to do that.
It's on the closed session agenda.
It is on closed session agenda. Okay, great.
Oh,
Maybe we'll get an
okay.
update on closed session. But I appreciate your comments. Thank you. All right, the next item is item number 6, and it is award, and I'll call on Major Mr. Strickland at this time to make this presentation. I want to congratulate you again for your recent graduation from the FBI Academy, Major Strickland. Understand you struggled with the physical and agility part of that, as I was told, or maybe I got bad information, I'm not sure. You can address that, but I actually understood you did extremely well on it. Congratulations.
I appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Go right ahead.
Okay. We are excited to give this award because it represents the overall professionalism and training of our agency. In honor, appreciation, and recognition of the hard work, dedication, and diligence displayed by Sergeant Joshua Trull during the course of the investigation into the homicide of Jaleel Taki Evans on Sumner Road, Castalia, North Carolina. Sergeant Joshua Trull dedicated countless man-hours, leaving no stone unturned. Sergeant Joshua Trull displayed outstanding forethought and ingenuity to execute multiple court orders and search warrants to discover the truth and make a solid arrest of Mikan Nar Dantek battle for this heinous crime. Sergeant Joshua Trull is a true asset to the state of North Carolina and Nash County. His professionalism is beyond dispute. For this honor, the Nash County Sheriff's Office and the citizens of Nash County present to Sergeant Joshua Trull the Award of Honor for Public Safety.
Sheriff, I just got a comment. You know, there's a program on TV, FBI and FBI Most Wanted. You might lose her. She may be on television before you know it.
That's the reason I keep pushing for these pay raises. To keep them here.
Good job, Dan.
Dan? I'll just talk to you later, sir. Is any other commissioner wishes to make a comment about this presentation? Be glad to hear from you if you would.
Well, I think it's good. We have capable people that can solve crime, even though it may linger on for a number of years, but they don't leave it alone, keep on until they get enough evidence to bring charges. And I think that's great.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to thank Sergeant Trull also. I know it's not easy. I worry. I don't have law enforcement in my family now, but I did years ago. And even today, I worry when they go out, will they come home safely to their families while they're protecting other families? So thank you for your service.
Likewise, Sergeant Trull, thank you so much for your service. Job well done.
And on behalf of the board, a great job done, Sergeant Trull. It seems like we do a great job in our sheriff's department of solving our murders, and it is certainly noticed by the citizens of Nash County, and we greatly, as a board, appreciate everything that each one of you that's here today do. Thank y'all. All right, with that said, we'll move on to item number 7, which is another item by the Sheriff's Department. I'll call on Major Eddie Moore at this time for a grant award from Firehouse Subs.
Good morning, how y'all?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Basically, what you have in front of you is just a resolution to accept a grant. We applied for a grant back in January through Firehouse Subs. Everybody's familiar with that chain of restaurants, and they do a lot of supporting of public safety. So we applied for a grant through them for a UTV, utility vehicle, side-by-side, and we were awarded that grant. We were notified a few weeks ago that we had been accepted for it. So what you have before you is just a resolution for us to accept that grant, and they'll send us the money within the next few weeks, and that way we'll be able to make that purchase.
Are you prepared to read that
I can.
resolution? Yes, sir. Thank
All right. The resolution?
Yes, sir.
Whereas the Firehouse Subs Public Safety Foundation Board of Directors approve the Nash County Sheriff's Office application for the life-saving equipment grant, and whereas the life-saving equipment grant intends to provide law enforcement, first responders, and public safety organizations with life-saving equipment to enhance operational response capabilities and to protect the health and safety of the public and personnel. Whereas the Nash County Sheriff's Office requested a Polaris Ranger 1000 XP crew with roof, windshield, rear panel glass, winch, and accessories valued at up to $22,484.85. And whereas Nash County, the county, does not have a matching requirement to contribute upon accepting the grant award. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Nash County Board of Commissioners that the county accepts the life-saving equipment grant award from the Firehouse Safety Subs Public Safety Foundation Board of Directors in the form of the aforementioned equipment valued at up to $22,484.85, and the county authorizes no grant matching funds. Adopted this 2nd day of May, 2022.
Thank you, sir. Any questions on this? Not, I'd entertain a motion to adopt the resolution.
Make a motion to adopt the resolution.
I second.
Motion by Commissioner Combs, second by Commissioner Belfield. Any questions on the motion? Only question I have, Mr. Moore, if you got contact with them, won't you see if you can get them to bring a firehouse sub to Nash County?
Yes, sir.
I don't think we have one here, and it certainly is a great place to grab a quick bite to eat. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Next item on the agenda is item number 8, and it is a National Emergency Medical Service Week proclamation, and I will call on Scott Rogers and Scott Strufy to, and I think Scott just passed the ball to you, sir. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Sorry for the rushing up here, but I'm trying to be cognitive of your time, sir, today.
Thank you.
So May 15th to the 21st of this year is National EMS Week, and the theme for this year for EMS is Rise to the Challenge, which for me is a little more retrospective than it is looking forward, as there's been no time as of recent that EMS has ever had to rise to the challenge. So it's my great honor to stand here and represent the staff of EMS with Nash County and present this proclamation for approval by the board. And it reads, whereas Nash County Emergency Medical Services is a vital public service, and whereas to the staff of Nash County Emergency Medical Services is ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury, and whereas the Nash County Emergency Medical Services system consists of fire departments, first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, educators, administrators, and others. And whereas the staff of Nash County Emergency Medical Services engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills, and whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and accomplishments of our Nash County Emergency Medical Services providers by designating Emergency Medical Services Week, whereas the dedicated staff of Nash County Emergency Medical Services are working courageously every day in these uncertain times, the coronavirus pandemic has increased the demands on our staff. They remain undeterred in their efforts and to deliver critical care and comfort to our citizens. Our EMS staff has often been the first point of contact with patients who are experiencing coronavirus symptoms. During this unprecedented time, we are all inspired by their sense of duty, selfless service, and sacrifice. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Nash County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim the week of May 15th through the 21st of 2022 as Emergency Medical Services Week in Nash County. We encourage all county residents to observe this occasion by showing their support and appreciation to our EMS staff.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any questions from any board members? Ms. Belfield?
Yes. Scott, this week, do you have any plans of showing off the services that you provide to the public? Maybe they can come by and take a look and understand what you all do.
Well, I'll say that we just recently had the chance this past week to present to the Citizens Academy that just finished up. And we included vehicle tours and the presentation in that. We'll certainly have presence at the Blooming Festival coming up as well. But as a specific event during this week, we do not. And to be quite honest, it's difficult to pull that off because we are so busy. It's hard to pull resources out solely for public relations when we're running 27,000 calls a year. So, but we are making every attempt to do that, sir.
But you'll be at the Blooming Festival this coming Saturday.
Yes, sir. We should have a booth up. We'll be doing public CPR education and general awareness of our department and functions. Yes, sir.
Other questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the proclamation.
Move approval.
Moved by Commissioner Wilkins, second by Commissioner Belfield. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known. Did I get that wrong, Sue? Okay. Thank you. Sometimes I can't distinguish between the two voices down there. I think I got it right, evidently. But all in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Scott?
I just wanted to add a thank you. We are very proud of that group of employees and the work that they do, so I just wanted to thank you all for approving that. And I think you will be invited a little later in the agenda today to be with them one day this week for lunch. So we do have a few things planned for the week, so thank you again for approving that for us.
All right, that covers item number 8. We'll move on to item number 9, which is a public hearing on conditional rezoning request CZ 220402. I'll call on Mr. Adam Tyson at this time to make this presentation.
Good morning. This is the first of 3 planning items on your agenda this morning. The first one concerns the former site of Bell's Small Engine and Hardware located on North NC Highway 58 between the town of Nashville and the town of Castelia. Subject property is highlighted in red in both your packet as well as on the screen here. That property is 1.91 acres. It was recently purchased by Flat Tire Enterprises, LLC. It's located at 1313 North NC Highway 58. The property includes an existing commercial building that you can see in the aerial photo. That was formerly the site of Bell's Small Engine and Hardware before, of course, the business relocated in 2020 to the newer Ace Hardware store inside Nashville here at 700 East Washington Street. The Board of Commissioners rezoned that property for commercial use in March of 2008 at the request of Mr. Jeremy Bell, the former property owner. It was rezoned from A1 to RCCU, Rural Commercial Conditional Use, and that, of course, is an excerpt from the zoning map. At the time, there were a list of specific commercial land uses that were approved for the site. Those included light equipment repair, such as lawnmower repair, equipment rental and leasing with no outdoor storage, miscellaneous retail sales, and office use. The request before you this morning has been brought by Mr. Gary Atkinson. He's the owner of the property now, as well as the owner of Crystal Clear Swimming Pools. He is requesting to add 2 additional uses to that list of commercial land uses I just reviewed. Those 2 uses are contractor, no outdoor storage, and specifically in this case, swimming pool contractor, as well as beauty shop. These 2 commercial land uses are similar to and likely no more intensive in nature than those previously allowed on the site. The applicant is not proposing any expansion of the facility or changes to the approved site plan at this time. And of course, the conditional nature of the request allows for the attachment of reasonable site-specific development conditions with the consent of the applicant. When we review our currently effective land use plan, you'll see that the entire area is pretty uniformly labeled suburban growth area. The request is partially consistent with the recommendations of the plan for this area because the commercial use of the property would be limited in scope by its conditional nature. The property, of course, as you can see, has frontage along and direct access to North NC Highway 58, a major state highway, and the property has potential access to Town of Nashville public water and sewer utility service. The request would be somewhat inconsistent with the recommendations of the plan because the property is not located at a major intersection, the property is not located in proximity to other similar commercial or non-residential land uses, and the subject property does not have significant spatial separation from the residential dwelling located directly across the highway. This request may be considered reasonable spot zoning and in the public interest because, number one, the Board of Commissioners already determined that the initial rezoning of the property back in 2008 was reasonable because it allowed the growth and expansion of a pre-existing equipment repair business that at that time was legally established and operating on the opposite side of the road. Number two, the commercial use of the subject property has continued since 2008. And approval of the current request would allow the reuse of an existing viable commercial building. I believe for a period of time between Bell's Hardware and now, there was a internet sweepstakes cafe operating in the building that was not compliant with our zoning regulations due to the separation distance required to a surrounding dwelling. And so this would be an opportunity to make use of that building in a way that would be both viable and legal and in conformance with our zoning regulations. Number three, the proposed additional commercial land uses, as I said, contractor and beauty shop, are similar to and probably no more intensive in nature than the things that are already permitted on the site. The TRC reviewed this on April 11 and recommended approval, subject to some development conditions. The Planning Board reviewed this on April 19th. Mr. Atkinson, the applicant, addressed the board in support of the request, and he was the only speaker on this item at that meeting. The Planning Board voted unanimously to recommend approval of the request, as well as the suggested statement of plan consistency and reasonableness that you have in your packet. And of course, subject to the development conditions, number one, the subject property would be approved for the full list of things that we discussed, plus contractor with no outdoor storage and beauty shop, and the subject property would be developed in accordance with the approved site plan only. And of course, the site plan is very simple and simply shows the parking area, the existing building, and the rear yard behind the building. This is a legislative matter, so of course the board is free to approve or deny. You have a motion for both in your packet, and I will pause right there and take any questions that the board has on the staff report.
Any questions for board members of Mr. Tyson at this time? Thank you, Mr. Tyson. Entertain a motion to go into public hearing on this.
So go into public hearing.
Moved by Commissioner Wilkins, second by Commissioner Belfield. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries. And ladies and gentlemen, we are now in a public hearing to hear from anyone in the public that wishes to speak on this item. So if you're here and wish to speak on it for or against, we'd ask you to come forward at this time and state your name and address for the record. Anyone here wishes to speak for or against? Mr. Tyson, is the applicant here?
Yes.
Okay. All right. No one wishing to speak, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing at this time.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wilkins, there a second? Second. Second by Commissioner Outlaw. Questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Public hearing is now closed, I'm sorry. Mr. Tyson, anything else you wish to add?
No, sir.
Any questions for Mr. Tyson? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion for approval or denial, subject to.
So approve this rezoning.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. What else do we need to say, Mr. Tyson?
A statement of reasonableness and consistency and 2 development conditions.
Okay. You can include that in your motion, Mr. Harrington.
And also to include the statement of reasonable redevelopment condition.
And 2
development
conditions. Okay. All right, is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, and a second by Commissioner Leggett. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries, sir. Hope you do well at the location. Next item on the agenda is item number 16, and it is another public hearing on UDO text amendment, request A220401.
What item you say?
10.
Item 10. Yes, sir.
I thought
I'm
I
not
was
sure what I
hearing
said, but
16.
I'm reading item 10. Go ahead, Mr. Todd.
All right. Second item is an amendment request to our Unified Development Ordinance. It comes from a recent, or springs from a recent rezoning completed by the board. Ms. Donna Moore is the owner of a property located at 4495 US Highway 264A, Bailey. That is very close to the Nash-Wilson County line. This board rezoned that property in September 2021 from light industrial to GC general commercial. If you'll recall, there was an existing building there. It was previously used as a machine shop, and post rezoning, it is now being used for an automobile towing and repair service. The operators also desire to add a tattoo parlor at this location as well. However, the table of permitted uses found in the county's Unified Development Ordinance does not currently list a land use similar to a tattoo parlor. Therefore, Ms. Moore has submitted the UDO text amendment request to add tattoo parlor as a land use permitted by right in the GC General Commercial Zoning District. You will note that there are no maps in this packet, and that is because we don't need to fixate on the particular site, because this change, if made, would apply to all GC general commercial zones throughout the county's planning jurisdiction. Our UDO states that if the zoning administrator should determine that a use is not listed and is not similar to a use in the permitted use table, then said use is prohibited. However, previous North Carolina court decisions do caution us that a jurisdiction should first make a plausible, legitimate justification that a particular land use is either a nuisance or an inherent threat to the public health, safety, or welfare before we choose to completely exclude that land use from development. Of course, as always, when we add a new land use to the table of permitted uses, the Board of Commissioners can choose, number one, which zoning districts the use would be allowed in, as well as number two, any required development standards for that land use, such as separation distances, screening, etc. The text amendment itself is on the screen in front of you with the highlighted changes colored in yellow. For context, we have shown the three land uses that we find to be most similar to tattoo parlor. Of course, they're not directly similar, or we would have categorized tattoo parlor under those uses. They include barbershop, beauty shop, medical, dental, or related office. As you can see, all three of those are permitted by right in the office and institutional, rural commercial, and general commercial zoning districts. And the request before you today is to add tattoo parlor as a use permitted by right and zoning permit in the GC General Commercial Zoning District only. Whenever we amend the ordinance, we're required by state law to consult our land use plan, but of course this request is neither consistent nor inconsistent with the recommendations of the plan, because the plan does not specifically address tattoo parlors as a commercial land use. The Technical Review Committee considered this request on April 11th and recommended approval. The Planning Board considered the request on April 19th and voted unanimously to recommend approval of the request and the statement of plan consistency that you have in your packet. This will take a single motion to either approve or deny and to adopt the statement of plan consistency. I believe the applicants are with us here this morning. And with that, I'll pause and take any questions that you have of the staff report.
Any questions, Mr. Todd?
Yes.
Mr. Belfield?
They're proposing an automobile towing service. And I know most towing services, they usually have space where they put automobiles that are...
Let me interrupt you just a second. This is not for automobile towing. That is already existing.
Well, that's what I'm reading here. It's now being used for automobile towing.
Yes,
service.
sir. Right.
Okay.
This would be the addition of a tattoo parlor, and the board previously approved zoning that allowed the automobile business back in September of last year.
Anything else? Mr.
Have
Bill?
you seen how it's being operated, the automobile towing service at this point?
I
Did y'all
have
look
not,
at
I
it?
have not been to the site since they were approved for that.
But you do understand there's no action today concerning that use?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Other questions?
I got a couple of questions.
Yes, sir, Mr.
Where
Outlaw.
do surrounding counties show this as a use? In what rezoning area? What zoning area?
I think it might be atypical to find a lot of tattoo parlors in rural county jurisdictions. But in the towns and cities that I'm familiar with, they do permit them in the equivalent zone to general commercial, which is our most intensive commercial zone. So typically they would be in downtown or highway business zoning districts.
Do any require development standards?
I'm not aware of any. Of course, there are state regulations that apply to tattoo parlors, but those would be separate from zoning regulations and things like separation distances or like that.
So with development standards, we could have those type conditions, separation distance from residential. et
We
cetera.
could. But those would need to be adopted along with the new use when it was added to the table.
That would be my preference, to have some development standards.
Okay.
If we approve this UDO, because it doesn't just apply to this location in Bailey. It applies
Correct.
countywide.
Correct.
So I'll give you an example. I've got a GC area out in my district, which is adjacent to a residential area. And I think they would like to see some distance if we had this business out there.
Okay. So if that would be the will of the board,
That's just me.
if there was a suggested distance the board felt comfortable with, we could adopt that today. Or if you'd like to table this, we could bring you some options at your next meeting. Or if the board, feels comfortable going forward, we could do that as well, the way it's suggested. So I'm open to all those options.
Well, I don't know much about tattoo parlors. I'm not opposed to tattoo parlors. I just want to know what's going in my district and what would be in that business.
Sure.
So therefore, I think we need standards.
Anything else, Mr. Outlaw?
No, sir.
Any other comments on this from other board members?
Well, I like
Phil?
Mr. Tyson's suggestion, maybe table it and come back with some.
Well, I'm trying to see if there's other concerns of any kind to get to that point, and I'll address that in just a second, if that's okay. Is there any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, I don't see any point in tabling it. A tattoo parlor is a tattoo parlor. We know what goes on. They do tattoos. But I understand some residents may be skeptical, but I don't see anything preventing us from going forward with it.
Okay. All right. Any other type concern other than development standards? Seeing none, it certainly seems reasonable to put some development standards on it. You seem willing to propose something today. So give us your thought on what you're thinking as far as a development standard while looking at some other similar uses that we already have development standards in.
Well, I'm not sure I said I was ready to propose them today. I said if the board had a number they were comfortable with. The thing that comes to mind, just because of the previous item we had, is Internet Sweepstakes, which has a 500-foot separation from any other Internet Sweepstakes, a school, a dwelling, a church, or a residential zone. And so that is one example that we could either increase or decrease as the board felt was appropriate. Or I will also offer as an option, if you would like to send a separation distance back to the planning board for review before your next public hearing meeting, we could do that as well. But 500 feet is a standard separation distance for a bar, nightclub, tavern, internet sweepstakes. But I suppose it's up to the board to determine whether that level of separation is required for this particular use.
Okay,
Would a 500 feet separation affect this particular one in any way? I don't think that there's some residential.
I don't have the map in front of me. I suspect that the adjacent properties are probably in the southern part of the county zoned residential instead of agricultural. So I would anticipate that it very likely would have an impact that would prevent this particular site. I can't say that definitively without doing a little research, but my gut feeling is it would probably rule out the request that has triggered this text amendment.
is the applicant here?
Yes.
Would they know?
Yes, it would rule it out.
Okay, thank you.
And I don't see a tattoo parlor as the same thing as a sweepstakes. I mean, people go there and stay and that kind of stuff. I think when somebody goes to get a tattoo, they go do it and they leave. You know, it's not a crowd drawing thing. I think it's entirely different.
Tyson, just to ease my mind, if you, I know you said nothing here compared to it that you could categorize it under, but if you were forced to pick one item in our ordinance that most similarity of the tattoo parlor, what would it be? Would it not have to be a beauty shop or something of that nature?
Right, so the three that we've listed there, barbershop, beauty shop, medical, dental clinic, of course, barbershop and beauty shop are because of the way the business model operates, where a client enters, they have the service provided, then they leave. And then the medical clinic is added because of the heightened level of hygiene and regulation that's required to operate a tattoo parlor. And as you can see, from the permitted use table, those are permitted by right in all three commercial zoning districts. And the request is, of course, only for the GC on the far right of the table, the most intensive commercial zoning district.
Okay. Any other questions any board member like to ask about this prior to me calling for a motion? And I think our options are to approve it as submitted, table it for additional work, or to approve it with a some kind of development standard that hopefully wouldn't affect this particular one that we have before us today. So what is the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion we approve it as presented today.
Have we held the public hearing?
No, we probably should do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I reckon we should.
Thank you. Thank you. As I told you, I'm going to push today. I will try to keep it legal. Any other questions of Mr. Tyson at this time? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Tyson, and at this time, I'd entertain a motion for a public hearing.
Move to open the public hearing.
I have a motion by Commissioner Leggett, a second by Commissioner Wilkins. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. And ladies and gentlemen, as we said before, we are now in a public hearing. If there's anyone here that wishes to speak for or against this item, I'd ask for you to come forward at this time, state your name and address for the record. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Tim Huggins, 4495 US 264A.
Get it, Madam Clerk? Could you state the name again?
Tim Huggins.
Tim. Thank you, sir.
I guess my only thing is, we talked about the distance. In this particular location, I think it would be less than 200 feet from a residential. And that's my only issue. I mean, otherwise, we're a family-owned business. The mechanic shop was for my oldest son, the tattoo shop's for the youngest son. And both my wife and I live at the residence, so it's not going to be what some people might think of a tattoo parlor. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from board members?
Just make it very clear that I have no doubts that the family would run this business very well, but keep in mind, this is a UDO text amendment. This is countywide, 543 square miles. So what one family would do right, another family may not do right. So please don't take offense to my comments.
Anyone else here wishing to speak for or against this item? Seeing none, I entertain a motion to close the public hearing at this time.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wright, all to close. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Combs. Questions on that motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. We are now closed. Any other questions from a board member or staff?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Tyson, did were the neighbors notified of this, or did it require that they be notified of the tattoo parlor?
No, because this, as Mr. Outlaw stated, is a text amendment that would apply countywide, there's no requirement to notify the people located next to that particular site.
Mr. Tyson, is the GC zone our most non-restrictive zone
For commercial.
for commercial? That's
Yes.
okay. That would be the proper place to do it. Other questions?
I got a comment. I'm just thinking I see tattoo parlors in lots of places, strip malls that right behind them may have residential houses, and I just don't know how far you go, and I don't know the reason why. You know, I kind of look at it like a beauty shop. I mean, I think you put it in the right place. That's just my thought.
All right, entertain a motion at this time, and the motion would need to also adopt a consistency statement if it's a motion to approve. With that said, I entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I offer motion that we send this back to the planning board for further review and maybe come up with, I know we have state regulations, all that, but come up with some, I would call good suggestions that you never know what the public, later on the public might come up complaining about. So I would hope this board would send it back to the planning board for further review.
I have a motion, is there a second to that motion?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by raising your right hand. Any opposed? Motion carries. Got enough direction for you, Mr. Carter?
Yes, I would note that the planning board recommended it with no development standards, but I believe the specific request is to come back with development standards, and so the staff will confer with the planning board and see what would be appropriate.
I think we ought to take a look at a lot of existing places, because I just don't think putting 500 feet on it or something is, I think that's unreasonable.
Noted. We'll do that.
Does that apply with your motion, Mr. Whitfield? Does that apply with your motion, what he stated?
State that again, because I was looking at something else at the time.
So I believe he asked that when we report on this next, we include the specific tattoo parlor standards for other jurisdictions so that we can use that as part of our discussion.
Yeah.
Any questions on the output where we are?
Yeah.
It might also be good if we had information from surrounding counties exactly how they deal with this.
Sure.
In the county, not in the municipalities.
Similar, comparable jurisdictions.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I'd like the way you look at other commercial zones or RC zones as well.
Okay.
I think you will maybe bump up with that if we don't take care of this stuff.
Okay.
Check your mic. Can you check your mic, please?
You say it's not working.
Yeah, we think you're muted. Jonathan's not hearing you. Jonathan?
Is the green light on?
Healthy bones way.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, can we verify that vote? It was 4-3, is that correct?
I think it was 5-2.
5-2.
I think Ms. Wilkins and myself voted against the motion, and I think the rest of them voted for it, if I'm not mistaken. Okay?
So you were for it? Okay. Thank you.
All right, we will now go to item number 11, which is East Nash PV Solar Farm, and I'll turn it back over to Mr. Tyson.
This is your final planning item for the day. You might recall that the board issued a conditional use permit initially on February 3rd of 2020 for the development of the northern portion of the East Nash PV Solar Farm to be located on approximately 183 acres south of North Old Franklin Road. The southern portion of that solar farm was going to be located in the town of Spring Hope's extraterritorial jurisdiction, and therefore it would be subject to the town's development regulations. The board later amended that permit on June 1, 2020 to expand the solar farm project to include an additional 33.6 acres extending east to Bass Road. So on the site plan that you have on the screen there, the area in red is the portion of the proposed solar farm that falls in the county's jurisdiction, and the area to the south that's outlined in blue is the portion that falls in the town of Spring Hope's jurisdiction. The left side is the initial approved area by the county, and then the additionally approved in June of 2020 is right here. When that permit was issued and amended, it established a 2-year vested right period within which that solar farm facility could begin construction. The permit is now set to expire on June 1st, the first day of next month. As we have seen, it often takes solar farm projects longer than the standard 2-year permit window to go to construction because of the intricate negotiation process between the developer and the power company. And so in similar manner, Pine Gate Renewables, the developer of this particular project, has requested a 1-year extension of the conditional use permit in order to allow the permit to remain valid through June 1st, 2023. You will recall that the board made a text amendment not too long ago to allow a full year extension as opposed to the 6-month extension that was authorized previously. Since that permit was issued and amended, the developer has continued to pursue the development of the project by securing an NCDOT driveway permit, an NCDEQ stream buffer determination, by preparing and submitting an erosion and sediment control plan for the state's review, and by having the special use permit issued for the southern portion of the project amended by the town of Spring Hope. The site plan for the project is on the screen and included in your package. That includes both portions, the county and the town of Spring Hope's portions. The developer is continuing to work with Duke Energy now to secure the necessary interconnection agreement and to determine the utility interconnection upgrades that will be required to connect that solar farm to the existing power grid. They anticipate construction of the first phase to begin in summer of this year, and construction of the second phase is planned for summer of next year. The ordinance allows for the board to, as the permit issuing authority, to extend for a period up to 1 year the date when the permit would otherwise expire if it meets 3 criteria. Number 1, the permit must not have yet expired, and of course this one has not. Number 2, the permit recipient must have proceeded with due diligence and in good faith. And number 3, the conditions have not changed so substantially as to warrant an entirely new application. These permit extensions can be granted without the submittal of any new applications or fees and without holding any further public hearings. And so this item does not require a public hearing this morning, just a vote by the board. There's no limit on the number of permit extensions that can be granted for a project, and a permit extension does not alter any of the conditions that were attached to the original permit, which shall remain in effect. This requires a single motion to either approve or deny the extension to June 1st, 2023. And if for any reason the board is inclined to deny, I would request on behalf of the applicant that instead you would table it until the board's second meeting this month to allow the applicant to be present to comment on that. And with that, I will pause and take your questions.
Any questions for Mr. Tyson on this? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion at this time for approval or denial.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the request to extend the expiration date of the conditional use permit issued for one additional year from June 2022 to June 1, 2023.
Okay, have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Leggett. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is item number 12. It's a Nash County resolution opposing the omission of left turn lanes at the Old Carriage Road and Sunset Avenue intersection. And I'd call on Commissioner Outlaw to make this presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity to present this resolution, which is requesting the North Carolina Department of Transportation, the Office of the Governor of North Carolina, and the North Carolina General Assembly to further investigate alternatives to the existing plans for the intersection at Old Carriage Road and Sunset Avenue and reinstate left turn lanes at this intersection. Board members, especially myself, have heard from the business owners located and owning property at this intersection who confidently predict the undesirable effects removing left turn lanes will create. In addition to adversely impacting those businesses located at that intersection, the new long-awaited exit off of Interstate 95 at Sunset Avenue may become known to travelers as the exit to avoid. The inconveniences resulting from removing left turn lanes will be noted, and travelers may condition themselves to not use the exit in the future. I would like to read the resolution for your consideration. Nash County resolution opposing the omission of left turn lanes at the Old Carriage Road and Sunset Avenue intersection. Whereas it is in the interest of Nash County that residents, visitors, and commercial traffic have easy, safe, efficient, and economical access to travel and roadway systems throughout the region. And whereas it is important to Nash County to support businesses along the travel routes in the county, and whereas Nash County depends upon the sales and gas tax benefits and revenues of the motoring public of commercial establishments in Nash County along and near travel routes to fund services within the county, and whereas the Nash County Board of Commissioners has been contacted by all of the business owners at the Old Carriage Road and Sunset Avenue intersection, and whereas these business owners feel that the revised plan to eliminate all left turn lanes at this intersection will create confusion, impose undue inconvenience, and seriously adversely affect their business interests. And whereas the Nash County Board of Commissioners strongly opposes any plan that will prove to be detrimental to local businesses, such as limiting the flow of ingress and egress to these businesses. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Nash County Board of Commissioners does hereby request the North Carolina Department of Transportation, Office of the Governor, and the North Carolina General Assembly further investigate alternatives to the revised plans for the intersection at Old Carriage Road and Sunset Avenue in Nash County, North Carolina, and reinstate left turn lanes as per the original plans at this intersection. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the North Carolina Department of Transportation, the Office of the Governor of North Carolina, and to members of the North Carolina Senate and House of Representatives who serve Nash County. Adopted this second day of May 2022. And on behalf of my district, which is where this area is located, I would make a motion for adoption of this resolution.
I have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second by Commissioner Leggett. Now, is there any questions about this by a board member? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Outlaw.
Appreciate it.
All right, as you know, we have a Board of Equalization and Review scheduled for 11 o'clock, which I'm going to need to get pretty close to that time. So I'm going to move the agenda around some. I'm going to ask the manager, I had planned to skip the number 17, 18, and 19, but we have the pay study presentation. Do you want me to give it for the time, or where are we?
So we've got about an hour to go, and he is queued up and ready.
Okay.
So we can ask him to do his presentation if you're ready for that.
I can certainly do it that way. Is that
Okay.
what you want to do?
And I think Jonathan can hear me. So Jonathan, if you could please communicate with Mr. Long and let him know that we'd like to,
Thank you. Come.
okay.
And for the benefit of the board, we expected someone to be here to make this presentation this morning. I'm not sure, hadn't been explained what happened, but we're now going to be doing it by Teams or Zoom or some platform that we can visualize the person making the presentation and ask questions. It is a very, as you saw in your agenda, it took up about half the pages, very detailed pay study, but please make your notes as we go through it and ask any questions, just like the individual was present here today. Am I to call on Anderson to say anything? Anderson, you want to come forward? That's what my agenda says.
Yes, sir.
Let you start off the presentation, sir.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning. Good. You can let him know you're going to introduce him.
Oh, Don, I was going to introduce you to the commissioners, if that's okay.
Great, thank you.
Okay. As you all, good morning. As you all were aware, we entered into a contract with the Management Advisory Group, or MAG International, to perform a classification and compensation study. And we were expecting to have someone in place here present today, but we're going to, due to unforeseen circumstances, we have Mr. Don Long, who is the president of MAG. He's going to be with us to talk a little bit about the draft findings that they have found. He'll give you an opportunity to ask any questions that you have about the pay study. The next steps after today would be to share the detailed results with the department heads and give them an opportunity to speak one-on-one with someone from the MAG group about any individual concerns that they may have about their employees. And we do expect to have final study results in time for the manager to develop an implementation plan prior to her presentation for a recommended budget at the May 23rd meeting. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Don Long, the president of MAG.
Okay, good morning.
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 I hope that you can hear me and that there's no feedback on the sound. But I appreciate your time this morning. What I'd like to do is give you a brief update on the compensation study. We appreciate your time and consideration. In terms of this project, it's a classification and compensation study. It includes 631 positions and 210 job classifications or job titles. So the project is focused on capturing current job data from employees, and that's done through a job questionnaire process that has been put in place. And employees have participated, and I'll show you how much they have shortly. We want to make sure that you have the internal equity, in other words, that the positions with greater responsibility are graded at a higher level than those with less responsibility, and that the relationships between the positions are appropriate. We want to identify any needed market adjustments to the current plan, and that follows a review of the market, which I'll explain in just a moment. And then we want to make sure that we give and provide an implementation plan and approach that would allow the county to implement and provide for a reasonable approach, and there are many that can be implemented, many approaches that can be used. We have not looked at staffing levels or tried to reorganize the departments or functions, and we're not evaluating individual employee performance or their capabilities. We look at the nature of the work being done in the jobs, and we're also not there to guarantee salary increases, nor to recommend salary decreases. And that was all explained in some of the orientation sessions that were provided to on-site to employees. In terms of the major project steps, we exchanged a lot of data and information. We discussed what we call market targets, which is the other agencies to which we compared your salary ranges. Benchmarks are the positions that we surveyed, and there were 52 of them. We conducted employee orientation sessions where we explained the process, and as well the questionnaire that was provided to employees that they went through our website and completed. We performed job analysis and reviewed all the job classes, completed the market survey, and we prepared a draft, initial draft at this point that I'll discuss here shortly. The peers and competitors include a number of the counties that were in your area. Again, we try to identify other agencies that you're competing with and those that look like you in terms of size and structure and so forth. So there's a variety of sources that we used for and sent out a survey that other agencies completed, where we identified the 52 benchmark positions and said, here's the nature of the work, here are the education and experience requirements, and what is your level of compensation for those positions. So all of these agencies were considered in that process. I mentioned that there are 52 benchmark positions. We found that you're generally competitive at the minimums, not bad at all, slightly lagging at the maximums. 33 of the 52 positions were lagging. And so the market told us that the ranges of pay should be 60%, and that's slightly broader than your current ranges. So we established the pay structure to reflect what we found in the market. In terms of the questionnaires that were completed, it's a 24-page or so questionnaire, and of the 631 employees in the database, 484 employees completely finished the questionnaire. But even better news is that of the 210 job titles, 191 job titles were completed, and that is just really excellent. We're very, very pleased with that amount of participation and completion of questionnaires by employees. In terms of the initial draft recommendations, we created, and in our software, we can create various pay structures. For yours, we established two. One being a sworn pay plan for the deputy and detention positions, and there are 134 employees and 18 job titles and 10 pay grades. We added senior deputy and master deputy positions. The range widths are more limited. We focus on the midpoint because we've seen in the last couple of years substantial movement in public safety positions. It's really something I haven't seen for probably 20 years. And so we wanted to make sure that you were competitive in a highly competitive environment for your sworn positions. The balance of the positions for the employees is in what we call a unified plan, and that's about 500 employees and 192 job titles distributed over 32 pay grades. In terms of the initial draft findings, we can do a number of different implementation approaches. What we've suggested initially is if there's been discussion about possible 3% across the board or flat adjustment, and in terms of the salaries that are established in the database right now, that cost would be about $878,000, so annualized amount. Then, in addition, there are some positions that are below the recommended minimum for the pay ranges. So there are about 200 people that would be slightly below the annualized amount of the pay range for their position assignment. So that's what we call a minimum plan. So in addition, oftentimes we'll recommend what we call equity adjustments or decompression, which is based on time in the position. What that does is create separation between people who have been in the position for varying amounts of time. So that's an option that can be considered, and we can adjust that as needed, but the estimated annualized cost ranges from 1.9 million to about 2.2 million. Now that's going to be adjusted slightly because I want to talk to department heads and make sure that everybody's in their right position, and that so there'll be some slight adjustment, but that's kind of an annualized estimate in terms of implementation. And that's within the norm that we typically see for studies such as yours. In terms of the next steps, what we'd like to do is seek some input from the department heads on these draft findings, and then as needed, make appropriate adjustments, and then provide you with a final report and implementation costs that might be associated with any changes that might be needed to ensure that we have that internal equity properly set for the positions as they relate to one another within the pay structure. So that is the last page of this presentation. If you had any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Would you go back to your next to the last slide, Mr. Long?
The last slide?
The next to the last slide.
Okay.
Any questions of Mr. Long, what you see so far?
Will we get a copy of this presentation?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Long, if I look at what you got there correct, this is just salary and does not include benefit cost that would go along with a salary increase. Is that correct, or is the benefit cost involved in it?
These are base salary adjustments.
Okay.
Not inclusive of the cost of benefits.
Okay, thank you. And is the 631 positions all that we have allotted, or is it the current positions that we have filled?
I'm not sure. I saw that's what we have in our database, and there may be some, you're perhaps referring to vacant positions?
Yeah, I was wondering if that was the number of positions approved by the commissioners, or if that was the current field position. I think someone on staff should prepare to answer that.
Yeah, Anderson just said currently 610 are filled.
Okay, so that is total number of positions currently approved. Okay, thank you. And it has made no adjustments for anything we are considering in the budget for new positions, I'm sure. Is that correct? Any position that we haven't approved yet, there's no adjustment for those positions.
Correct. Correct.
Okay, thank you. All right. Well, the one pleasing thing that I saw in looking at it and just studying the numbers, that if you take the number of employees and the salary, our average salary for our employees is almost $52,000 a year, which is about $9,000 more than the county average wage. So that was, I'm glad that it looked like that anyway. Other questions the commissioners have?
Yeah. Could you go back to your peer review survey group?
Okay. A moment. Yes, sir.
Okay. I guess now explain the standard that you use to choose the peer competitors group, since you don't have our neighboring counties, Edgecombe, Halifax, and, yeah.
Well, we selected these after going back and forth with the county and trying to identify those that might be competitive with you. And size matters in many respects, and distance and geography was consideration as well.
Okay, just need to hear your explanation.
Uh-huh.
Mr. Long, it appears like, just looking at the counties, you may have also considered total assessed value. Was that taken into account, which is the amount of money that we'd have available, or was that not taken into account?
That's normally not considered when selecting competitors. Aren't based on the theory that potential employees don't really consider that, in assessed value. What they care about is the value of the position and how they would come into the organization. So the answer to that would be no.
So it's just based strictly on population numbers then?
Well, population and geography, and oftentimes we'll look at the map and say, well, what within an hour's drive, what kind of agencies might be you might be competing with for employees. So that's consideration often,
okay.
but not assessed value. Sorry.
Other questions?
Mr. Long, would you go back to the slide where you have the senior deputy and master deputy for the sheriff's department?
Okay, I'll try.
I want to say it was almost first.
Yeah. Oh boy, hold on.
There you go. Thank you. That sworn pay plan, aside from deputy sheriff and the detention center positions and the employees that are already there, law enforcement, was there, did you look at, I guess, leveling out the senior deputies that are there already, as opposed to new deputies coming on, and those who have tenure? And did you look at their salaries to make sure that they were being compensated for their years of experience? And I'm not sure it's correct, but I've heard that, some deputies coming on are making more than senior deputies that have been there a while. And I just want to ask that you pay close attention and look at that, because we do want, those that have been there for a long time, at least I do, want them compensated properly.
That is an excellent question. At this time, because these are new positions that are assigned to the pay structure, the incumbents in the deputy sheriff position are assigned to the deputy sheriff title. And we have not made the distinction as to which positions might go into senior or master deputy at this point. We're going to have to rely on the sheriff's office, sheriff's department, to identify who would be assigned to a senior deputy or a master deputy position. And we have the various dates, hire dates and promotion dates and so forth, but for a new position like this, in this example, all the incumbents in the deputy sheriff position are now assigned to the deputy sheriff title. And if anybody is to be assigned to a senior or a master deputy, we're going to have to rely on the sheriff's office department in order to make those assignments. But that can certainly be done.
Okay, and just so I made myself clear, and I understand the deputy sheriff, but you have some, I think, that are there that may not, have a senior title, but have been there a long time. And I understand that's up, a lot of that is up to the sheriff, but I just wanted to make sure you looked at that to try to level out the salaries.
Well, we looked at establishing a structure that includes those positions, but the individuals assigned to the deputy position, whether it be deputy or senior deputy or master deputy, right now, they're only assigned to the deputy sheriff position in the database and in the report.
Okay.
That makes sense?
It does.
Commissioner Wilkins, the study does address the equity for length of service. So yes, for each individual employee, they have taken a look at their start date with the county, their years of service, and have built-in equity in each of those positions.
Okay, that was my major concern with them and the 911 and EMS operators. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Stacy, does that 750,000, which is the new number I'm seeing here, is that where that kind of money would be at?
I'm not sure exactly which breakdown that is, but there, yes, is a figure assigned to the equity part as well as the 3% cost of living, and then the third component was getting our positions up to the new minimums.
That amount is 750 now for the equity part then.
Let me see if I can get here to the last sheet that has that breakdown. Yes.
It's what he's showing on the
Yes.
screen now.
Correct.
Okay, so when he talks about he hadn't assigned any positions to the new positions that he's proposing in the sheriff's department, is there any money included in this total number that would cover those kind of things or not?
No.
It is
No,
not.
so that's what I'm hearing, is that the next step is going to be, and hopefully we can get the sheriff to work with us on that, making those assignments to see what those additional dollars would need to be to go ahead and move long-term employees into those two new levels that we're creating.
So we're really not to the point to have a total overall cost for this study yet?
No.
Okay. Are they, for you, Mr. Long, this is a item that we see here today that's not in the total. Are there other things that could happen in other non-sworn positions that may cause this same thing? Are we adding new positions in other categories or new titles that would do a similar type cost that we don't currently have covered?
If you don't mind, Scott, can I ask you about the 911 center? I believe we were also trying to build in levels within those staff as well. And I'm sorry, I don't remember looking at the first sheet that we sent out. Did you have those new levels built in for 911? Okay. So no, at this point, the only area that we have new levels like that is in the sheriff's office and detention center.
But before we take action on this, we will know the bottom line of the total cost.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Sure.
Mr. Long, could you go back to the page with the counties and the municipalities that you used for the study? My question will be pretty simple, and I hope it'll make sense. Did you evaluate EMS based on the different models of shifting that are used throughout the state? For example, Nash County is a 24/24. Some counties are 24/72. Some counties are 12-hour shifts. So how do you balance that to show what is equivalent in our pay versus counties that have other shifting, and have you considered that?
Yes, in the survey, we looked at the number of hours that would be typically, that would be assigned for each of the different responding organizations. So yes, all of that was taken into consideration in making the assigned levels for the titles within the pay structure.
So when you give us the salary study, will you give us that comparison broken out so we can see how one compares to the other, to see how it levels out?
Absolutely.
For the 12-hour shift, the 24/24, and the 24/72. Can you give us that in those three categories?
Well, for each of the position titles that were benchmark positions, we will know the number of hours that each of the comparison organizations, how they work their, how many hours they, on an annualized basis, that are required, that they assign people.
So you will provide that information for those three shift models?
Well, we have the information that includes the number of hours that the various agencies work. I'm not sure about the three shift models that you're referring to, but you're right that agencies have varying numbers of hours that they ask employees to work. Typically, a regular employee would be at 2080, which is a full-time position. The sworn positions have varying shift assignments and so forth. So whenever that information was available, we would collect it and use it as part of the information that would be used to make assignments for all of the positions within the pay structure.
What I'm asking you to do by each of these entities that were surveyed, I'm asking you to tell us for each of those what their EMS shift model is. If it's 12, 24, 24, 24, 72, that's one thing. Tell us that. And then you can tell us the hours associated with that model. If you've got the model, you'll have that model. They can tell you that.
Okay.
Okay?
Sure. We'll give it a shot.
Well, I hope so, because that's, I think all pay is important, but obviously there's been a lot of feedback received from EMS, and I just want to know the facts of that before we finalize and vote on this salary study. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions, comments?
Stacey, you understand what I'm talking about?
I do.
Okay.
I do, yes,
Thank
I'll
you.
follow up.
I think the key thing is the number of hours that
Right.
each employee works, right?
And Mr. Long, you said that you were able to obtain 191 completed questionnaires out of 210 job titles. Would you be able to provide us with those job titles that you did not get a questionnaire for?
Yes.
Okay, that would be helpful, thank you.
We track that. We track that.
I just want to
And we
clarify.
provided reports that identified along the way during the process, and so I have a final listing that can certainly provide through HR. Is that okay?
Yes, thank you.
If I could, I just want to clarify one thing. I'm interested in the hours for the shift. I'm not interested in overtime hours.
Correct.
I'm just interested in what that shift, the hours for that shift.
What
it
the
would
normal
be.
work hours are.
And then any overtime hours they work is, that needs to be taken out, because that's at their discretion.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And I hope when we get the bottom number, we will have the number associated with benefit cost
Yes.
moving forward based on any increases in benefit we're going to be seeing in the new budget, example, health insurance.
Sure. Yeah, we have been working with those numbers right now, just as a general estimate on the estimated numbers that have been given to us up to this point, we can add about another $650,000.
Okay,
And that'll just,
whatever it is, yep.
yeah, it's going to be adjusted over the next couple of weeks as we have more contact and get more final numbers.
And just to be sure, I know we got a substantial, you may have it covered somewhere else in the budget, but if, like health insurance, or if it's not covered somewhere else, make sure any increases in benefits get tied into the number. So we'll have a true total number.
Absolutely.
All right, other questions? Questions from staff of Mr. Long?
Good.
Mr. Long, we thank you, sir, and look forward to working with you a little longer to finalize this and help us finish up our budget process.
Great. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Belfield?
We'll get a proposed copy to review before we vote to adopt any recommendations.
Yes, sir. The manager stated we would definitely have that.
Okay, I might have more questions when I see it and read it.
Sure. And I know we're getting in a crunch time, but I feel like we need to see it before we're asked, well, we won't be voting on the 23rd. You'll be presented on the 23rd, and then we won't be voting on anything, so we should be fine.
Yes.
Okay. Other questions on this particular agenda item?
Just hope we can get that information prior to the day before the 23rd, so we got time to look at it.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
All right, that took care of item number 16, and if it's okay with the board, I'm going to move to item number 17, 18, and 19, and ask Mr. Boone to come forward. First of all, if anybody need a break at this point in time, we can take one if you like, or we can keep moving.
Keep moving.
I would like a break.
I got to keep moving and I like a break. Do we need to vote on that, or am I going to say we're going to take a break?
Well, we'll let you rule on it.
I don't have the ability within my stated requirements as chairman to rule on that.
I'll withdraw. Out of him.
You want to take a break, Mr. Belfield? Okay. We'll take a 10-minute break. Mr. Boone, we'll be right back with you, sir. I'll call us back into session at this time. Just looking at my watch, Mr. Boone, why don't you come on forward and start on item 17, I think it was, so we can hit that 11 o'clock mark.
All right, thank you, sir. Good morning. The item I have before you this morning, the county received notification early last month, official notification that we had received a $50,000 grant from the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality to fund a merger regionalization feasibility study in southern Nash County. Would involve Nash County, the towns of Bailey, and the towns of Middlesex. And the material you have in your packet is the material required to accept that grant. So unless there's any questions. Well, I'm sorry, are there any questions?
Any questions, Mr. Boone, on this?
We did, I will mention, we did have a, you may recall, approving a contract for the study. At a previous meeting, we did have a kickoff late last month with the town of Bailey and Middlesex. And the intent is to complete that work within 4 months or less, really in order to position the county and the towns to apply for some grant funds that we anticipate will be available through the state later this fall.
All right, no question, I'd entertain a motion for approval.
Make a motion that we approve the study grant agreement.
Motion by Commissioner Combs, second by Commissioner Belfield. Questions on those motions, that motion? Seeing none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign. Item 18, Mr. Booth.
Yes, sir. Next item I have for you is a change order on the Nash County Detention Facility Addition and Renovation Project. You may recall we approved, or the commissioners rather, approved a change order at their meeting back in March, first of the month. Change order 1 in the amount of $93,521.07, which was a credit back to the project. And I always love to bring those change orders to the commissioners, but unfortunately, the second change order I have for you will increase the value of the contract. There are 6 items listed there, the most significant of which, there's 6 items, the most significant of which is a upgrade to the locks in the special housing unit. That is a portion of the jail where the most violent offenders are located, and during the course of the project, the Sheriff's Office asked that we evaluate upgrading the locks in that portion of the jail to be consistent with those that will be used in the new addition, the new 94-bed addition, and the renovations on the project. And we received a proposal for that. You will see is $262,040.86. The next most significant item was the relocation of one of the transformers over at the jail. And long story short, once we got underway on the project, Daniels and Daniels started their work. We found that there was a complete system was missed during the design phase of the project by Mosley Architects, and that work had to be done in short order in order to keep the project moving along. And you can imagine that the complex over at the jail and the courthouse has been built in multiple phases, again dating back to 1921. So the as-built records were not the best, and anticipate there would be some things that we were not aware of once the project started, and this is one of those items. So Daniels and Daniels and Mosley Architects have reviewed the scope of work, materials, labor, et cetera, and came up with this recommended amount of $157,982.81. And the third most significant item is upgrades to the building automation system in the existing portion of the detention facility. Naturally, with the new addition and the renovation area, there will be new systems there that will control the heating and air units and the like. And we want to make sure we had a system that was consistent across the entire footprint. So we asked Daniels and Daniels to provide us with a change order that would upgrade the existing building automation system in the existing roughly 30,000 square feet of the jail to a Snyder system, both controls and a control system. And that change order is in the amount of $109,897.03. And then the other 2 items there, you'll see, again, when they started work on the project excavation, found some sanitary sewer. Those are not shown on the as-built drawings that had to be relocated. They penetrated the building footprint for the new additions. That change order is $10,584.16. The vendor recommended that we consider revising the lock system from 120 volt to 24 volt, which has become the standard, which makes that system easier to work on. There was no dollar amount associated with that change order, so we're recommending that change on the project. And then finally, there was a recommended change to the lighting package on the project, and that amounts to $14,820.25. So the total change order two is 555,325.11, $555,325.11. And that will result in a revised contract amount of $18,097,239.04. And the contract schedule would remain the same, so no change in the schedule on the project. With that said, I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions of Mr. Boone on these? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Combs. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries as well. Mr. Boone, go ahead with number 19.
All right, last item I have for you is related to the Pet Connection Center, the new animal facility proposed on the Edwards Tract that the county purchased beside Nash Community College. You can see there that bids were opened Thursday week, back on April 21st. We received 5 bids, and the low bid was Arnell Builders. That is a contractor we are familiar with. They assisted the county with construction of the Southern Nash Senior Center, and also happened to be the contractor who built the animal facility for the city of Wilson, which our project borrows from heavily. So the recommendation is to award the contract to Arnell Builders for the base bid amount. Plus, there were a couple of ad alternates at this point. We only recommended one of those while we negotiate a dollar amount on the other. One we recommend is upgrading the roof to a standing seam metal roof. And then there were some unit prices for undercut excavation and unclassified excavation. And we're recommended to include $10,000 in the bid award to account for those 2 items. So the recommended award amount is $2,385,402. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer those.
Just refresh my mind now. We got a donation from an estate for how much of this money?
We received some funds from a trust, and Donna will refer to that in the budget order amendments that'll be forthcoming. But the county received a little more than, I think, $1.5 million for this project, some of which we used on the purchase of the land, and the rest will be applied towards the construction of the building.
Soon you might want to mention that when the other alternate comes back to us, it will be covered by outside funds and won't be county funds, is the way it's looking, by donation, if you would make mention of that.
That is what we anticipate. I did not want to overcommit, but anticipate that change order will be about $40,000 and will be paid for with outside funding. But I will bring that back to you once we have that dollar amount established and the source of funding confirmed.
Right. Thank you.
So I got another question. I mean, I'm all for this project. Now, I wouldn't know we need it, but right now, as I see it, it's going to cost the county about $1 million of our money.
A little more than that.
Okay. Well, you know, do we have the money? And I guess, I don't know if this is the right time to bring it up or not, but it's a concern of mine. Are we prioritized here now? You know, we got other things we got to do. We got a new budget coming. We got a pay study increase coming. We got a shift change that needs to be done with EMS. The Sheriff's Department needs more officers. Is this money that's not going to affect all that? If it is, I just think we got the cart before the horse. That's just my comment.
Those are all great questions.
I will attempt to address it, Mr. Combs.
Please, sir.
You know, we decided, well, it's been determined a long time ago that we had to do another animal shelter. and we have patched when we got up and patched it up, and we barely got by it at this point, quite frankly. And so it is very sorely needed, or we're going to have to spend a tremendous amount of funds on a very old facility that's inadequate. So moving forward from that point, the steps we have taken thus far is we have purchased land for it, and we have got to this point with it. It is considerably more than what we hoped it would be based on the job in Wilson, but that's the construction times that we are in. We would have had a lot less in it if indeed we had been able to do this 2 years ago. But just looking at the overall picture, I think my thought is we are too far. The need is certainly there. It's a severe need, and we are too far into the process to not continue moving forward. And certainly we have, I hope you understand this is a one-time expenditure, and it's a capital project, and in capital project, it's not uncommon for a governmental agency to use a fund balance amount to complete a capital project or borrow money, whichever they so choose.
Do we know what we plan to do? Use capital or borrow?
We do. We intend to use fund balance to do it, is the proposal at this point in time. Now that, may be looked at by staff differently moving forward, but what we'd be doing today would be doing fund balance we're going to have a budget adjustment in just a few minutes on another item on here. But, this being a one-time expenditure, I think should be looked at differently than a continual expense that we may incur moving forward. Because we do have fund balance available to cover this.
Yeah, you can look at it different, but it's still $1 million plus.
It is, sir.
And I think looking after our people is a whole lot more dire need than an animal shelter. And I'm not saying I'm not opposed to it. I'm for the project, but I don't want that to be a priority rather than looking after our people and doing what we need to do. I mean, I just don't want to come up when we get a final figure and say we can't do this because we're short or we don't spend it out of fund balance. But I just don't think that should be a priority over looking after our people and doing what we need to do.
Well, my other thought on it is we have a capital need here, and we are getting half or a little better paid for from an outside source, which was a fluke of luck, quite frankly. Good luck on our part, bad luck on the person that has allotted those funds, and it's kind of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to use $1.5 million to complete a very sorely needed capital improvement project. So we are actually doing it for half of what it would be cost us did we not have that beneficiary leave those amount of funds to the county. And I do think it would be a huge mistake.
I totally understand what you're saying.
Yes, sir.
And I got that. I know that.
Okay.
But I don't, it's kind of like, you say you're going to go buy a new vehicle or something, so you write it off your tax. Well, you're writing off, you're spending $2 to save one. I mean, I'm not against this project. I just don't want it to be priority over some other things we got to do.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay, point well taken. Any other comments from commissioners?
Yeah.
Mr. Belfield?
We approve going forward with this project, and I don't see nothing holding it up at this point. We had approximately estimate of what it would cost when we approved moving forward with it. So to me, based on what I know about animals out here in the county, I think the public gonna want us to follow on through with this and not delay it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Belfield. Other comments?
Just got one question.
Sure.
And you probably told me this before. When will this home on this property need to come down? Will it need to come down before you start construction, or?
We can start the grading work and construction without the buildings posing a issue. I understand we have allowed the tenants, I believe it's some additional time.
Till the middle of the month, yeah.
Correct. But that should not delay the project.
I guess my bigger concern is when we get to the point that we want to take that home down, in advance, are we going to coordinate that with the Nashville Fire Department to use it as a training exercise?
That is my understanding.
Okay, could I ask that I be kept in the loop on that? I guess Chris Joyner, the chief in Nashville, would be the point person with that, because I've been contacted by members from other fire departments that would like to have the opportunity to be involved in that as well. So, Scott, if you could just keep me in the loop and make sure that that's coordinated well in advance so I can get that communication out. Thanks, sir.
Other comments or thoughts? All right, I'd entertain a motion on this item to approve or deny the request.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw, second by Commissioner Belfield for approval. Any other questions or comments on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Boone.
Thank you.
We are now at the 11 o'clock hour, and which is the posted time that we had for our Equalization and Review Board. So at this time, I will recess the Nash County Board of Commissioners temporarily, and I'd entertain a motion to go into the Board of Equalization and Review.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw, second by
Second.
Commissioner Wilkins and Belfield. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Ladies and gentlemen, we are now in a meeting for the Nash County Board of Equalization and Review, and I'll call on Bobby Smith at this time to come forward and swear the board in. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
I think you each have a Bible at your place. Should we stand or?
Could everyone stand? And I'm
Apparently
just
so.
going to go ahead and call your names out first. Put your right hand on the Bible, raise your left. Mr. Fred Belfield Jr., J. Wayne Outlaw, Marvin C. Arrington, Robbie B. Davis, Dan C. Cone, Gwen Wilkins, and Sue Leggett. Do you solemnly swear and affirm that I will support and maintain the Constitution and laws of the United States and the constitutional laws of North Carolina, not inconsistent therewith, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office as a member of the Board of Equalization and Review of Nash County, North Carolina, and I will not allow my actions as a member of the Board of Equalization and Review to be influenced by personal or political friendships or obligations, so help you God.
I do.
I do. Thank you.
You, ma'am. All right, Ms. Sumner, I'll ask you to come forward.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. At this time, as Chairman Davis stated, we are in the Board of Equalization and Review, and in compliance with North Carolina General Statute 105-322, the Nash County Board of Equalization and Review will meet to hear upon request any and all taxpayers who own or control taxable property assessed for taxation in Nash County and with respect to the valuation of such property. And at this time, Chairman, we do not have any appeals docketed with the tax office to be heard today.
No appeals at this time. You must be doing a good job down there then.
We're working on it. We're working on it.
Body happy. Okay, with that said, I would entertain a motion to recess the Board of Equalization and Review until June the 6th, 2022.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Belfield. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. That motion carries. And with that said, we'll go back to item number 13, which is the monthly tax report. Ms. Sumner, while you have the podium, please proceed.
Thank you. You know, each month we are required to report to the board the status of collections in the tax department, and you have before you the monthly tax report. As you know, this report is to keep you informed. It is recommended that you accept the report so that it will be noted in the minutes. Does not require approval, but it's recommended that you accept it so that it be noted in the minutes. And if there are any questions, I would be glad to answer those.
Any questions on the tax report? Seeing none, is duly noted in the minutes.
Thank you. And the next item that I have are refunds, and we do not have any for consideration this month.
All right, we don't have any refunds. Okay. Well, thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Hill been summoned?
He has.
Okay. Did he respond to the summons? Is he on the way? Okay. Katrina, will you be okay to move to item 21? Okay, why don't you come forward then? What this is we had asked the committee that's serving on the ARP Funding Committee, which consists of Marvin and myself, to have a presentation made to update the whole board on the work that we have been doing. And Ms. Whitehurst, I'll turn it over to you, ma'am.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And I would like to say how great a job Katrina has done since she took this role and has moved it. It's a slow process, but she is moving along. I would definitely say that.
Thank you. On March 11, 2021, the American Rescue Plan Act was signed into law and established the Coronavirus State and Local Physical Recovery Funds, SLFRF program. The program has provided funds to state, territorial, local, and tribal governments to support response to and recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. From the SLFRF program, Nash County is set to receive a total of $18,316,518, paid in two distributions or tranches. Nash County received the first distribution of $9,158,140.50 on June 1st, 2021, and the second distribution will be paid no earlier than 12 months after the first payment. To update you on where we are today, the Nash County ARPA Committee has been meeting monthly to discuss potential projects and related policies. The final rule for use of funds became effective April 1st, 2022. The current activities and focus have been on Nash County Employee Premium Hazard Pay Policy, which we hope to initiate by June 15th, and a policy application for Nash County nonprofit reimbursement funding for pandemic-related expenses that we plan to make available this week and fund by the middle of July. There are numerous policies related to the use of these federal grant funds that have been recommended by the Federal Uniform Guidance and the ARPA Final Rule in conjunction with the UNC School of Government. It is our plan to present a resolution to the board at the June 6, 2022 Board of Commissioners meeting to adopt these policies and also present an amended project ordinance to adjust the categories for the ARPA funding to reflect the updated proposed use of funds. And also, our second Department of Treasury reporting that was due on April 30th was successfully submitted on April 28th. I appreciate the opportunity to come before you today to provide this update.
Any questions you have of Katrina?
This committee part of Nash County government?
It is made up of 2 commissioners and staff, yes, sir. I don't know that I fully understand your question, but the committee is made up of all staff except for Mr. Arrington and myself.
Mm-hmm. No. Okay.
And it's about 7 staff members, if I remember correctly, on there. But if you got any questions about these funds, y'all have time to time had questions.
Yeah, who are the 2 commissioners?
Mr. Arrington and myself.
Ms. who?
Me and him.
Oh, and Aaron, Aaron, okay.
Yes.
Has it been fully decided how you going to divide up the money, what you going to spend it on yet? Just don't tell us.
Not fully decided, but it's getting closer, and that's what she was indicated. She's going to make that presentation to us at our June meeting.
We hope to update
get
that at the
board
June meeting.
approval. You know, we have approved a preliminary plan.
Yeah, we did.
But that has changed quite a bit, not necessarily the number of items in there, but some of the things we tried, you know, we didn't spend all the money, for instance, vaccine to the students, and some of the things cost a little bit more money than what we thought. The employee vaccination was very successful, I thought, when we reached the 70%. And we have now, you will have a policy by which we can give nonprofits part of the funds, and we're also will have a policy by which we would be doing, if board approved, I won't use the right word, but hazardous pay, and that's not quite right. What are we calling that?
Hazard premium pay.
Hazard premium pay, thank you. That would go to some of our employees that they have been working on for very intensively to get that where we hope it'll be fair to all the employees. But it's all prepared by the staff.
Okay.
Other questions? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, Ms. Wood, still, okay. We're on item number 22, which is excise, what is that word?
Excise.
Excise, not excess, but excise.
Excise tax refund.
Okay, tell us what that is.
Okay, it's with our clerk of court, the Register of Deeds. So a deed was filed in the Nash County Register of Deeds office erroneously on January 14th. The property was actually located in Edgecombe County. So the attorney's office is asking that we refund the $200 excise tax for this deed. And so we need approval from the board to do this refund, prepare this refund.
I think I've never seen that happen before.
I don't believe it has since I've been here.
Yeah, okay. Any questions on this? Entertain a motion for approval.
Move for approval.
Did you get that, Madam Clerk?
Unanimous?
And is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a light sign. Motion carries. You could continue on the 23 item number, which is the fiscal year 2021-2022 audit contract.
Okay. The Local Government Commission requires the governing board to approve the audit contract annually. This audit contract is with Thompson Price Scott Adams and Company. The cost of the audit and preparation of the annual financial statements for fiscal year 22 is set at $52,000. This is our sixth year with Thompson Price Scott and Adams, and it is a 4% increase over prior year.
4%.
Yes, sir.
Any questions on that?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
you said this is our fourth year with them?
This is actually our sixth year with them.
Do we open it up for bidding, or we just normally go with the Thompson and Price?
We opened it up for bidding. We bid out 6 years ago with Martin. We had Martin Starnes as our auditor for, well,
many years.
Many years, and we bid it out 6 years ago. So we will probably put out our request for proposal for next fiscal year or during the fiscal year, so we can see what's out there.
Thank you.
I will say there are a lot of audit firms that are no longer wanting to audit local government because of the number of standards put in place. So the number of audit firms doing this have significantly declined.
Mr. Chairman. But I believe you put fresh eyes on it.
Absolutely, we do.
Meaning different staff members. Right.
Different management looks at it within the...
I shouldn't say this in public, being they could be possibly watching, but just watching what other entities pay for an audit, I think the price is very fair with all we got going on in Nash County. I shouldn't have said that, but anyway, and I know many of them have stopped doing it, as Donna said, so it's really hard, and some people struggle to get somebody to do there. So what I'm leading up to, apparently your staff does a good job of working with the auditors and makes their job somewhat easier than it may be in other places, and thank you for that.
You're welcome. And I will point out that with our proposal that we had from Thompson, Price, Scott, and Adams, we had the same price for 3 years, and they were allowed to increase after those 3 years.
Right, okay, all right. No other question, entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wilkins, a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Outlaw. Questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Item number 24 is essential single-family rehabilitation loan pool project ordinance amendment.
Okay.
Ms. Wood?
The Nash County 2020 Essential Single Family Rehabilitation Loan Pool Program was approved for modification on March 30th, 2022. The modification increased the allocated funding from $190,000 to $320,000, which increased the number of homes that can be repaired from 5 to 8. The attached grant project ordinance amends the project to increase the funding allocation and related costs. And we're requesting approval of this amendment.
Questions? Entertain a motion for approval.
Move for approval.
Moved by Commissioner Leggett. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Belfield. Other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries as well. 25, Northern Nash Water System Project Amendment.
Okay. The attached amendments presented to correct the project ordinance. When the additional loan funds for this project were approved with the amended ordinance presented in December 2021, the loan funds presented were incorrect. The new loan funds were what we were provided was $654,500, and the amount that was included on the amendment was $654,000. This amendment corrects the $500 error. I'm asking for approval to correct my error on the ordinance that I presented.
Well,
I would like to collect that $500.
I had a question, but you just answered my question.
First one I've ever known you to make, so I think we ought to approve it.
We'll
I'll make
go
a
with
motion.
that.
Any questions on this one? Entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Combs, a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Outlaw. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? You can pick up your check in the finance office. The next item is the item that we added at the beginning of the meeting, which was 25A, and I guess you have a handout on that?
I do. I put this at your
You had
seat
it at your place,
earlier.
I think. And it titled?
Animal Facility Capital Project Ordinance Amendment.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, the proposals for the construction of the animal facility were open Thursday, April 21st at 3 p.m. The lowest responsible bidder was R&L Builders and Sons located in Dorchester. In order to complete the project, including security equipment, furnishings, and signage, the attached amendment is presented to budget a fund balance appropriation of $840,000.
Any questions on this one? None, entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Combs. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries as well. Item 26 is budget amendments.
Okay, so I have before you missing one of my amendments. 8 budget amendments for the board to consider. So the first one we have is with the Recreation Department. This budget amendment is requested to make funds available that have already been collected in sponsorship revenue for our spring sports, baseball, softball, t-ball, flag football, and soccer, $13,740. The next item is with Emergency Services. This budget amendment appropriates funding from the Emergency Management Performance Grant Program. These funds are to local governments to assist in the cost of developing and maintaining a comprehensive Homeland Security response program, including planning, equipment purchases, training, and funding requirements. It's $18,230. No county funds are requested. The next item is with the Health Department. This budget amendment appropriates additional funds based on an increase in the participation rate to enhance local health department's ability to continue with the objective of the Special Supplemental Nutritional Program for the Women and Children's Health Services. It's $1,393. No county funds are required. The next item is with Planning and Inspections Department. This budget amendment is presented to budget additional funds for third-party cell tower project reviews by Cityscape Consultants related to the expansion of 5G and broadband internet service. Review fees are paid by the project applicant, so no additional county funds are required. It's $7,500. The next item is with Jcpc Funding. This budget amendment is to budget additional discretionary funds to the Impact Plus program for increased fuel expenses and T-shirts for staff and clients. It's $2,700. No county funds are required. The next item is with our Home Community Care Block Grant Program. This budget amendment is to transfer HCCBG funds from medical transportation to By Faith Home Care. The difference in the revenue and expense relates to county match funds not required due to the transfer of the funds. So the medical transportation required a match, but, Option By Faith does not require a match where medical transportation did. So it's we're putting $295,000 back into fund balance with this transfer. The next item is with the general fund appropriation transfer for the animal facility capital project. This budget amendment is to appropriate fund balance from the general fund to transfer to the animal facility project to cover the costs to complete the project. It's a request of $840,000. The next item is with asset forfeiture for insurance proceeds. And this budget amendment is to budget insurance proceeds received for a 2019 Dodge Charger identified as totaled. It's $23,511, and these funds will be used for a replacement of that vehicle. And that vehicle was originally purchased with asset forfeiture funds, so the money has to go back to that fund.
On item 6, would you go through that one more time?
Okay, with the HCCBG program, the funds are moving from medical transportation. I had that mixed up. They're moving from medical transportation to By Faith Home Care.
Okay.
By Faith Home Care does not require a county match. I had that mixed up.
Gotcha. And it constitutes $295,000 back to fund
No,
balance?
$295 back to fund balance. Due to the match.
I think you said 295,000 is what caught my attention.
I was hopeful.
You were hoping. I was too, quite frankly. Trying to cover that animal shelter. Okay, thank you. Any questions, board members, on these 8 amendments? Seeing none, entertain a motion for approval.
Move approval.
Moved by Commissioner Belfield, a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Outlaw and Commissioner Wilkins. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries as well. Where was he on the way from?
Thank you.
Scott? Where was he on the way from?
He was on a conference call. He was trying to finish up the day this way, but I just asked him how close it was.
Okay, that's okay. We'll keep moving. We'll move to item number 27, which is approval of a land transfer to Nash Community College. Ms. Saxby, we'll call on you to make that presentation, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Nash County purchased land for the construction of the new animal facility adjacent to Nash Community College. The county does not need the full tract of land for the animal facility and has been in conversation with the community college about a use moving forward. I believe the consensus of this board is to transfer back 14 plus or minus acres of the tract of land to Nash Community College, and that is what the request is here in front of you today. You've got a map of that land, and the request is to approve the transfer of 14 plus or minus acres back to Nash Community College, and that is subject to the State Community College Board approval. They will be taking that before the state board a little later this month.
Just to further explain it, if you look at the map, you'll see the 5 acres even, which is lot number 1, is where the animal shelter is going. And then lot number 2, which is just a tad bit over 4 acres, is the piece that the county is retaining at this point in time for any future need we may have, but understanding the community college may have a need at some point in the future also. And at that time, this board would consider also transferring that to them if they come up with a need prior to us coming up with a need. The roadway to access the back piece, which I'm going to ask Mr. Outlaw to explain, if he doesn't mind, since he serves on that board, what that piece would be used for, but the access road itself will be constructed by the community college in what they're doing at the back.
You're referring to the back portion, right?
Yes, sir.
The community college is currently engaged in a partnership with Edgecombe Community College for a CDL training pad. They've got a nice location over in Edgecombe County. Nash is currently working with them using that pad. One of the things they'll do with this land out here is they'll construct a pad, put a pad down, and do the CDL training. They'll also do BLET, fire training, things of that nature. So it'll have a multi-purpose use on that property. As Mr. Davis said, if at the front, the college in the future has some program that develops where they may need a building and we haven't used that property, then it would be my belief that we would consider transferring that property to them as well.
Any questions on the map and how it's been utilized?
Yes.
Mr. Belfield?
What is the value of that property if it were sold?
If the part that we're transferring to the community college were sold?
Right.
Give me 1 second, and I will tell you the value based on what we paid for it.
We paid a little over 38.
About $550,000, Mr. Belfield.
550.
Yes, sir. But understand the Board of Commissioners is responsible for capital improvements at the college and providing funding for stuff that they request and we approve.
I just wanted to know the value of what we were
Donating
donating to Nash Community College.
Right. Understood. Good question. Other questions? Entertain a motion to approve the request for transfer of land to the community college.
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of that request.
I have a motion by Commissioner Outlaw, a second by Commissioner Wilkins. Is that okay, ma'am?
That's fair.
Okay. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. That motion stands approved. And
Bill here.
yeah, I'm checking a few things here. You want me to let Mr. Hill go ahead and then you can finish up the
That's
meeting?
fine.
Is that okay with you?
Absolutely.
Okay. And we'll be back in regular order. We'll be going back to item number
20.
Which item? Help me out. 20. Thank you, Dan. Item number 20, which is discussion on recently implemented convenience center pilot program, which I think yesterday was the first day it was in effect. And Mr. Hill, we'll turn it over to you, sir.
Okay.
Good morning.
Thank you, sir. And ladies of the commission. I would like to say that, yeah, yesterday was the first day of enforcement date, May 1st, and we did have quite a few that were turned around, 23 or 4 or 5 at our old Nash Tech site, old Carriage site, and about 26 or 7 at Spring Hope. We just spot checked a few this morning. So we did have a few that were turned around. They seemed to be the most common excuse was they did not get one in the mail, or they did not realize they had to have one May 1st. We had done quite a bit of media outlet exposure, we thought, and had signs at each convenience center. But nevertheless, we did expect, actually I expected a little more of a problem yesterday on May 1 enforcement date. Then we had a number of these residents, you know, was 6 weeks ago, we started telling and informing the attendants that when you come up to the convenience center, you need to start showing your permit. You need to start using it when you come up, even though today you're fine, but come May 1, we will require that to be seen to eliminate the abuse we've experienced over the years. As you know, each citizen in rural Nash County was mailed, or at least that's from the ones that were charged, $125. Those citizens were mailed a permit, that green permit that's a mirror hanger. And they were also, we talked about after that, if they needed up to 2 more, they could purchase 2 more. And we had a number of cases where we had calls that were requested. As a matter of fact, we had sold around 230 or 40 as of this past Friday of those second permits, $10 permits. We sold 8 or 9 of the $75 permits, as you realize, as you know, as you approved. We have a special permit for which is the same, but it's a $75 permit for the folks that live in municipalities. So if you live in Rocky Mountain, Nashville, or Spring Hope, still want some supplemental solid waste provision, then you can purchase one for $75. And again, we've only sold about 8 or 9 of those permits. We have had a pretty active couple of months. Nearly a full-time person, when you count full-time equivalencies of using different administrative staff and clerical staff for this purpose. We've had a number of calls and a number of people. As a matter of fact, we've set up a table in the lobby where we just see those citizens that are coming in and did not receive them. As you know, a lot of the citizens might be renters, and 7 or 8 went to the landlord, and for whatever reason, landlord was late or didn't get those permits out to the renters. Of course, we left that on the landlord. That was incumbent on the landlord to get those particular mirror hangers to the renters. We've had just a lot of different situations. We had people that we didn't think about but were exempt. Our senior citizens, I talked to Ms. Doris on Friday, and we talked about that very issue. We just did not realize and think about ahead of time the citizens that were exempt, so they didn't show up on the $125 list. But we did provide those people with one. Now, exempt meaning they were over 65, and I think she said somewhere around 31.9, just about $32,000 a year. So if they were on fixed income and a little more, and over 65 or disabled, they were exempt from paying the $125. But so they weren't on the list, but we were able to provide them with one once we found out we had exempt citizens that needed a permit. So without any further ado, I really think this is probably your discussion, your request to have a discussion about this. We anticipated that it would be, with expectations, some issues, some problems. You know, you're starting a new system, and we are really going through this process and critiquing it and trying our best to get it right for next time. We've come up with a lot of things that we didn't think about that we'd like to improve on for next time. But right now, we've had a few issues that we've had to work with, and I guess all in all, it's gone along fairly well, and hopefully we're over 80% of it at this point, where people will adjust to having to show some kind of identification when they enter one of our 9 rural convenience centers.
Bill, did your reports you got of people turned away, I'm hoping stayed pretty civil this time, whereas we've had a little problems before, or how did it go generally?
Pretty civilly, I think. We did have 1 or 2, law enforcement was called, I believe, where they forced themselves into saying we're going to throw away our solid waste, regardless of what you're saying. We just simply, I think our attendant simply took the tag and called Sheriff's Department probably. Okay. But not a lot of that. I think it was fairly simple.
And you may not have had time to analyze it, but do you think it's a genuine issue with people not receiving it in the mail that was legitimate, as much trouble as we have with mail now? I wouldn't find that a huge surprise, or what's your thoughts on that, or maybe you'd rather answer that later.
Well, I just generally, if I could give you a ballpark on that, we thought we had around 18,300 thereabouts, about 18,300 or 4,000 rural households, and we think the mailings went out to over 16,300 or 400. So there were obviously some missed. There were some things like on parcels. You would have one gentleman last week had 5 parcels and got 5. We could see that he paid 5 $125 fees, but on one parcel he had 3 modular units. So when we looked into it further, we could see that he really did pay for the 3 on that. So instead of just 5 for the 5, paid for 2 extra, he really had 7 that they paid for. So we had to reissue. But we have a tax listing from the tax department where we verify each one. We've kept a record of all the ones we've sold second, third, the first and second permits to. And also we've kept pretty good, we're looking at the log to, first of all, when they say they didn't get one in the mail, or what their situation was, we would check to verify the tax listing to make sure they were a legitimate and one that was qualified or was eligible for the rural household fee.
Okay. And I think the general discussion you're talking about, I'm thinking probably 30 days ago, I sent an email to the board that I asked the board to think about and let me know how you felt about reconsidering the idea of giving each household 1 card and maybe looking at giving them 2. It was based on me getting so many calls and requests for that, and I think I may have gotten as many or more than some, simply because of the convenience center probably is that our most busiest one on Old Carriage. I don't know whether it is or not, but the people that went there is who I heard from so much that I did want the board to reconsider going to allowing us to give them 2 cards rather than 1, and the predominant argument is there are at least 2 drivers in the household. We alternate carrying the trash off. We do it at times when the other car's gone. The card may not be there. I think there's a way of solving it. The card always goes back on the counter like we do in a case I deal with on a parking space, but it just got so predominant, and of course we had some that wanted as many as 5, and one individual had 8 cars, but we certainly can't accommodate all requests. But I heard back from 2 commissioners on that, I think, only, so I would like to open up the floor for a discussion on potentially going to 2 cards and mailing each one of them a suck-it card out, and considering that if indeed we should choose to do that, we would need to refund those that have already purchased that suck-it card. But please give me your thoughts on that.
Wouldn't you?
Before you get to that?
Yes, sir.
An alternative?
Excuse me just a minute, Mr. Belfield. What's your question, Mr.?
Before you get that, all the people that's being turned away well, I guess suggestion or whatever, are the attendants taking their name so that we can check and see what their situation is?
They're not taking their names, but they're being told where to call. They can call the landfill or call the health department, and we will handle it right there at the health department. That's where we do have the permit. So they're being told where they can call. And that has worked fairly well as far as folks being, and of course, we haven't had a lot turned away because yesterday was the first day we would have any turned away. So up to this point, all last week and all the previous month, it's just been simply saying, hey, if you didn't get one, you need to call the health department, you need to call this number, or you need to call the landfill, and we can accommodate you with this. We can look that up.
Okay. Well, I guess I make that suggestion, if it might help, if they want to leave their name with the attendant and address, which would be, they need name and address so you can check and make sure.
Thank you, sir. Good idea.
Mr. Belfield, you had the floor.
Oh, I'm just going to say, you suggested each one in the household will have a card.
No, each household have 2 cards rather than 1.
2 cards.
Yes, sir.
Well, if you have a record of that household, that they have a permit to go to the convenience center, don't they check them out when they come in at the convenience center?
They just look to see if they have the permit, the hanger. That's all they do. They look.
So all you're doing is just going by the card?
Going by the card when they get to the convenience center.
That's all they can do, Mr. Belfield. They don't have the ability.
Yeah, they can do more than that. They can have a record. You don't have a record that cards that you issue?
At the health department, yes, sir, we do. But not at all of our 9 convenience centers.
Why can't each convenience center have that list?
Well, let me also say they're not numbered. So it wouldn't be a number assigned to each one. So they all are exactly alike.
Well, I feel that could solve the issue. You wouldn't have to be issuing 2 cards.
Well, Mr. Belfield, I go to convenience center occasionally myself.
I mean, that's a method that you can use, but...
But you're going to have cars lined up and one attendant that's got to plumb through all these papers to see if that person can go use it or not. I believe it would really hold up the process more than what we could bear.
Well, they can do it by regions.
Yeah, but this card gives you the ability to go to anyone you want to in the county.
Well,
just my thought, Mr. Outlaw.
I travel to 2 convenience centers primarily, and I try to go back and forth. Vic's on 58 and Old Carriage Road. And some days I go out there and I'm the only person there, but most times there's a lot of people there. And these attendants do not have time to do anything but look. They don't have time to go up and talk to you, carry on the conversation, because if they do, they're going to make a lot of people upset. And like Mr. Davis said, they're going to back up to the road, and that's going to be a much different issue. So I think what we got is good. My issue has been I've got so many calls from people that have at least 2 vehicles, and they're requesting 2 cards. And I think it's a reasonable thing to do if they're paying taxes on those vehicles, is to provide them with 2 cards max. And if they want more, then they can buy them.
Mr. Arrington?
Well, the permits are issued on whether you own property in the county, not by cars.
That's the way we issued them, based on the number of $125 annual fees they pay. So if they paid a rural fee, or they paid 3, they had 3 properties, they were issued 3. That's right, based on the property.
Yeah.
I will say that the cost, if we'd have numbered them, if they'd had sequential numbering, it would have been about $8,500. We halved that cost because we looked at it from a cost-benefit analysis. It wasn't a lot of value to the numbers on the cards. So if they could make them all alike, it was about $4,000. So we were able to halve the cost of making the cards by making them all alike. We made $20,000. If we issued a lot of to the complete mailing list, we would obviously need to go back and have some cards remade. We made 20,000. We thought we had a little reserve of about 1,700, but we'd have to obviously go back. We think our total cost, when we looked at it the other day, when you look at the postage and the cards and the envelopes and the mailings, it's probably around $15,000, $16,000 to actually get the mailing and the cards made, the whole bit out.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Aaron?
No, yeah,
Okay.
the thing was about it that it's by property, not by car.
Right.
But the point being, if you own property, you're going to pay property tax. And then if that property owner owns at least 2 vehicles, they pay vehicle tax. So I'm just advocating for 2 tags if they pay 2 taxes on vehicles and they live on property that they're paying property tax on. And I mean, to me, this is such a small issue. We've got so many more significant things that we need to be working on than having much discussion over this. To me, it just, people, you know, if you're in the city and most of your residents are in the city, then you probably are not hearing from anybody. The only ones you're going to hear from are those that go out there and get turned away because they don't have a tag. And they can get a tag, like he said, for $75 for 2 years. But to me, it's just kind of a simple thing, but that's just me.
Other comments on the discussion we're having now, which is the possibility of issuing that second card?
Would a simple solution to this be if someone needs a second tag, call and request it, us mailing that at that time versus duplicating the whole process again and spending another $15,000 for the
That would be an
complete
alternate
mailing?
method, yes.
And then upon next time we issue tags,
Yeah.
us doing 2 per household.
Understood.
That's a reasonable.
Mr. Chairman.
That's a reasonable, I think that's great. Anything else, Sue?
No, thank you.
Gwen?
I'm just all for streamlining the process and making it as simple as possible for our employees as well as the citizens. And when we first initiated this, I was all for just one tag, one sticker or hanger, and I could see 2, and making the process as simple as possible. Our workers at the convenience centers don't need to be patrolling at all. I don't think if you have a sticker in the window, you're allowed to go in. But I would be all for giving 2 stickers to the taxpayers, and then the ones who have already paid for that second sticker, reimbursing them in some type of way.
If we were to use Sue's recommendation and just send another one to everybody that requested it with no charge, how would we get that word out?
Well, I guess my first call would be to Jonathan Edwards and see what we could do with the media outlets and website and some of those other ways to advertise and promote that particular item. But that would be a certain amount of issue. I'm sure if there are X number of folks that showed up at the convenience center yesterday that said they hadn't heard anything about a card that needed to be in place.
That's your first problem right there.
Yeah.
And it is, I got a call from citizens, and I don't mind sharing who it was. Mike Brank with Southern Bank. He didn't get any cards, and you know, I know he knows where he got cards or not. So I gave him the number, and he said thank you, and I'm sure he's called and got his cards now. But that was just one day last week, so for some reason he didn't get his in the mail. I don't know why he wouldn't have, but the mail doesn't get where you mail it sometimes this day and time. It's probably in. Well, I'll just stop by there. But I like your idea, Sue.
I will say too that the cards came in a pretty plain envelope.
Yep.
That could have been mistaken for junk mail. And so I could see that some people may have tossed it out.
Our attendance, and when I talked with our solid waste manager this morning, Matthew Richardson, he thought that very thing. A lot of people got it, didn't realize what they had, threw it.
Well, if you want to know the truth,
Or set it aside.
I thought it was a political flyer, but I did open it up and look at it, saw what it was.
Yeah.
We might have had bad timing on when we done it, I don't know. Other thoughts?
Well, if you're talking about sticker that they could put on their vehicle, I think that's better than issuing a card.
Well, actually, the problem there is it's a 2-year card, Mr. Belfield, and a lot of people trade cars in 2 years, and then they got to find a way to get another sticker, because once you stick it on there, and of course, some people, the way bumpers are this day and time, they don't want a sticker on the car because it is a painted bumper.
You put it on the bumper.
Sticker's not near as visible as that card
Yeah.
is
Yep.
to the attendant who may be some distance away.
Right. I think we've made the right decision with the placard.
Well, a card can be abused.
It can be. You can
That's right.
give your neighbor there.
You just give
no
it to your
system
neighbor,
perfect.
or even someone in another county, a friend.
Yeah.
Use this and go there and dump.
Right. It is. No system's gonna be perfect, though. We know that.
Well,
Mr.
I think my idea is better than, it'll take a little time, Commissioner Outlaw, but I think that's a better way of handling it.
I'm just advocating for the attendants, because I spend time out there with them and I know what they're dealing with. And I can tell you, when they challenge people, when they think people should not be there, it's not pretty. It's just not pretty. We do not need to put them in that situation.
You know, I was just thinking, and thank you for that comment, because they really do go through a lot. They really do. They really do. Another thought might would be that if you wanted to send out a second permit, if we get through all this, and even though this is a 2-year permit, towards December, we look at sending the second permit out just in the event you've lost yours, or the event you needed another one in your household. You could send out a second permit in December for the second part of the year. I'm not advocating that necessarily, but I just thought that would be, we get through this process, and then you'd have a second permit, just saying in case your other one was misplaced, here's a second permit for the second part of this year. That could be confusing, though, because this is a 2-year permit.
Yeah, that's going to get confusing.
And do you have many that come to the convenience center that didn't know they need to have a permit in order?
Yes, sir. We did have.
That's where we can probably do some communicating and let the public know that you have to be permitted, have a permit in order to use the convenience center.
Yeah, we really thought we did hit the airwaves pretty heavily in newspapers and a sign at each of the convenience centers, but obviously there's some that just did not see that. But yeah, there were some that came.
When you drive up to Old Carriage, to one sign on each side of the road. It clearly states, and before that, they gave you notice, in a certain period of time, you're gonna need a placard. Then the signs were there. So I'm thinking what Ms. Leggett has recommended is a good idea, ever how you promote it. I can tell you how I'm gonna promote it to the people that have called me. If we agree with that, I'm gonna call them. And I expect that probably the request you will get will be from those people that are contacted by people that have contacted them. Yeah. And you probably may not get much more than that, at least on this round. And then when you do it again, then you do it.
I like that.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Mr. Aaron.
I agree. Like I said, you've had, I go to convenience center all the time, and you've had displayed signs saying that we were going to go to May 1st, it's sticky. I would suggest, in order to avoid all this mailing, that if, through public notice and place a sign at each convenience center that if you need a second tag, that you call the number to get a second tag. Because everybody might not need a second tag, but people that needs it, to display at the convenience site. Everybody that comes to convenience site clearly can read, and the attendant can tell them that direction if they want a replacement tag. That would be my suggestion.
All right, we've talked about this pretty lengthy, and I think we found something that works. And since we took an official vote on the one tag, I'm going to ask that we take an official, actual vote on what we're going to do forward. And Sue, do you mind stating the motion what idea you had?
I don't mind one bit. All right, Mr. Chairman, I offer a motion to provide citizens with a second trash disposal tag at their request, and that moving forward upon the next issuance of convenience center tags, that each taxpaying household be provided 2 tags at that time.
Okay. So I have a motion. Is there a second? Second. And a second. Any questions on the motion?
Could we include that we display the signs at convenience sites, how the person requests their second tag?
Yes, sir. That the Health Department, Solid Waste Department will provide adequate signage at convenience center sites notifying citizens of our policy.
Already done? Yep.
I don't know if you need it in your motion or not, but we need, if you can get a second tag for free, we need to send those people that have already paid for a tag, we need to send them their money back.
I think we understand that.
Okay.
All right.
And that point was that all those people that have received one or paid for an additional one would receive a refund.
Yes, sir, and an explanation why the refund. All right, have a motion and a second. All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries, and thank y'all for your diligence on that. Thank you, Mr. Steve.
And just as a point of clarification,
Yes, sir.
anyone requesting a second permit from this down would receive one free of charge.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then if it's in addition to the second one, they'd pay the $10 charge.
That is correct.
Okay.
And we will be instructing them. I've got a list also that I'm going to call and tell them to call that number and get a second tag. You have that number in your head? Don't worry about it. I got it.
Okay.
I don't have it with me, but I got it.
Yeah.
Don't want to give out the wrong number.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your willingness to be summoned.
Thank you.
All right, we're now on item number 28, and we'll turn it back over to our county manager. Good morning again.
Good morning again. So this item is to elect a voting delegate to the NACO annual business meeting. The National Association of Counties will hold their 2022 annual business meeting at the NACO annual conference on Sunday, July the 24th, 2022 at 9:15 a.m. at the Gaylord Rockies Resort and Convention Center in Adams County, Colorado. In accordance with the bylaws, the board needs to elect a voting delegate to represent Nash County.
I had one commissioner inquire about that and express an interest in doing it, Commissioner Wilkins, but I'll just let the board know that. And could you tell us who is signed up to go, or Madam Clerk?
Yes, there are Commissioner Bill, Commissioner Arrington, Chairman Davis, and Commissioner Wilkins.
Okay.
You said what, 3 commissioners?
4.
4.
I've decided to go, Fred, because I hadn't been to see my brother in 3 years. He lives close to there, and I'm going to go and stay extra week and spend some time with my brother as well.
You said 1 out of the 4 have requested.
Yeah, Ms. Wilkins mentioned to me that she would be delighted to do it if so chosen by the board. but it's a board decision, a full board decision.
Well,
So anybody want to make a motion for somebody?
well, I'll make a motion that Commissioner Wilkins will be our voting delegate at the National NACO Convention.
Okay, I have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Leggett. Any questions on the motion? I didn't think she seconded her own motion. Her own desire. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a light sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you all.
And next item is 29, which is board appointments.
Board appointments to consider. The first one is for the Nash County Board of Adjustment. A new alternate member number 3 needs to be appointed, which is a carryover from last month. And since then, I've also heard from Mr. Tyson that an alternate member number 1 for Terry Williams is needed. He has resigned and will be moving out of the county. So therefore, we now have 2 vacancies for alternates 2 and 3. And Commissioner Wilkins provided us with an application this morning for Emmanuel Shell. And I don't know if Ms. Wilkins wanted to speak on his behalf.
I do, and as you can see before you, he said a really good friend of his recommended him, which is me. He is a neighbor living in the South Acres community. He is very well known. His family is very active in the community, and as you can see, he served as chaplain of Nash Healthcare Systems for 20 years and Nash County Red Cross for 15, Chapter United Way, and so I highly recommend him for the position. He's been on the zoning, he was a zoning inspector at the Board of Adjustment, I believe, for the city of Rocky Mount.
And is this for which position?
So there's, well, it could be either 2 or 3. I mean, I guess we would fill them in order.
You mean 3 or 1?
No, so, I'm sorry, that was written a little confusing. It looks like Terry Williams was an alternate 1 member, but since he is resigning, they'll all move up.
Okay.
So that would leave whoever's left would move up to alternate 1, and that would leave alternate 2 and alternate 3 vacant. So I would imagine we would fill them in order.
Okay.
So this would be for alternate number 2, and then you can see the note down below. The 2 vacancies actually leave no serving members for district number 4, Commissioner Leggett, or district number 6, Commissioner Wilkins.
And this would fulfill District 6?
It would, correct.
Okay. All right, we have a motion by Ms. Wilkins for...
That Emmanuel Shell be appointed to alternate number 2 on the Board of Adjustment.
Have a motion, is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Outlaw. Any questions? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. That motion carries.
Do all these alternates attend the meeting, even though they won't be in the position of voting 3 and 2?
Commissioner Belfield, I'm not sure. Gwen, do you know any more about that?
I know when I was an alternate, when Mary Wells had asked me to sit on there, although I was a 3rd alternate, I attended the meetings. You have the option to attend the meeting, but you cannot vote unless there's a regular member absent. You move up to vote in that place, but you can sit in on the meeting.
And I think...
I had one member that's just newly put on asked me that. I attempted to, while we had a break, to talk to Mr. Tyson about it, but he was busy with a customer, and I didn't get the answer. I didn't know if you knew as county manager as to how it operated.
I think the way it works, Mr. Belfield, you're certainly able to go to each meeting, but if he knows he's got a member out, he's going to make sure that first alternate knows they need to be there, is what I've seen him do in the past.
The question is do they get notices to attend the meeting?
Yes, sir.
And
the packet.
Okay.
Because either one of them, it's about like an alternate juror. It could be called at any time to be there, knowing he's got somebody else that'll be out. And I think generally they have somebody that may be out. So we have alternate 3 vacant at this present time.
Correct.
And that person that doesn't have an alternate or a member on the Board of Adjustment is Ms. Leggett then.
I'll be working on that.
Okay, all right, good.
Okay. The next one is for the Gateway Technology Center Board of Directors. We had a vacancy with Manager Lamb retiring, and I'm now filling that seat. And we've been notified that we still have a vacancy that needs to be filled, that Ms. Mary Wells was serving on that board. So their next board meeting is May 17th at 9 a.m. and will be held at the Carolinas Gateway Partnership in Rocky Mount. And they're asking for this board to appoint someone to fill that remaining Nash County seat.
Right, I got notified a couple of weeks ago, I think it was by Gateway Board, they needed that seat filled for this upcoming meeting. I would suggest, since Ms. Wells had that seat, that we consider Ms. Wilkins to serve in that capacity. It's one thought I had, but what's the thoughts of the board on that? And I did ask Ms. Wilkins over the weekend she'd be willing to serve, and she said she would, but with that said, what's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I move that Ms. Wilkins be appointed to that board.
Second.
I have a motion and a second by Commissioner Combs, motion by Commissioner Outlaw. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries. Other appointments?
The next one is for Nash Edgecombe Wilson, new Community Action, formerly known as NEED. Commissioner Fred Belfield is a current member of the Board of Directors for New Community Action. In an effort to preserve this nonprofit's ability to secure future funding from the county, we're requesting that you appoint a representative for Commissioner Belfield. Appointing a representative for an elected official follows the requirements that New has for their funding agency, one of their funding agencies for Community Services Block Grant. They have a requirement through that agency to have a tripartite board, which means that they need to have some elected official, either elected official or representation of an elected official on that board. So right now, currently for Nash County, Commissioner Leggett is appointed to that board, with myself appointed to represent her, and we've got Commissioner Belfield appointed to that board, and we're asking you to appoint someone to represent Commissioner Belfield.
Did I understand you to say that this needs to be partly done because of the new bill that requires?
Correct. And although Nash County doesn't currently provide direct funding to this agency,
May be called on it.
situations like the ARPA funding for nonprofits that we're getting ready to offer could hamper that.
Okay. So I think you're asking for us to consider leaving Mr. Belfield a seat, but asking a staff member to fill that seat.
Either a staff member or it could be somebody from the community to represent him.
Okay. Did you come with a thought?
Well, I did speak with Mr. Belfield about that. I don't know if he came today.
I spent the weekend trying to find someone to replace me. If we can wait until our next month meeting, I think I have somebody.
Okay.
Any time sensitivity to it?
No, we're okay.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Belfield, I think that'll be fine.
All right. The next one is for the Town of Nashville Board of Adjustment. They're asking the Board of Commissioners to appoint an ETJ member to their Board of Adjustment. They have had a member to resign.
Did it come with a recommendation?
It did not. I did reach out and ask if they had a recommendation. I know the Planning Board Director was asking his board members about that, but I have not heard a recommendation.
I think it was Elwin that came with a recommendation. Bailey or Middlesex, maybe. Bailey.
Bailey.
Right, okay.
Right.
Sue, you have most of Nashville in your district.
I can work on that, sure.
Okay. You take that one, okay.
You got a running list going over there? Okay, and then the next one is for the Town of Bailey Planning Board and Board of Adjustment combined. They have a vacancy for an ETJ member, and they're recommending Mike Davis for appointment. Mr. Davis is eligible, willing, and recommended for appointment to that board.
All right, pleasure of the board.
Make a motion, we recommend appointing Mike Davis to the Board of Adjustment for Bailey.
All right, I have a motion to appoint Mike Davis to the planning board / Board of Adjustments. There's a second to that motion?
Second.
Second. By Commissioner Outlaw. Questions on the motion?
Could someone tell me a little something about Mike Davis?
About what?
Do we,
Mr. Davis.
I mean, I don't know who he is.
He's all right. He's been around a long time. I've worked with him, and I guess we don't have to fill out a regular appointment form on him since he's come as a recommendation to town of Bailey. But
Okay, gotcha.
He's
Okay.
all right.
All right, thank you.
He runs the Pelicans at, around Wilson and another place.
Okay. All right.
Other questions?
Just for clarification, is it a requirement for an appointment like this that you live in that municipality or that ETJ?
I would imagine.
It's a planning board / evidently they serve planning board and board
I
of
just
adjustment.
wondered if that was part of the requirement.
Well, it should be, yes.
Okay.
I would think that
I
it
know it
is.
is.
Check that and let us know.
That
Seems
is.
like it would be.
I think this makes at least two in the ETJ, not in the town that's on that board.
Because I know in the past, I've had the opportunity to appoint a person like this that lived in the ETJ, and they turned it down. But I didn't know if you could go outside the ETJ. It seems to me like it'd be more appropriate if they were in the municipality or in the ETJ.
I think it is a
Yeah.
requirement that they are in the ETJ or the
It
town.
is a requirement, because I checked on it some time ago, not unless things have changed.
I don't think
Yeah.
that. It's,
You have to live in that territory.
right, okay.
And the problem with having somebody in the city of Rocky Mountain, ETJ, is that they don't want them to vote, not unless it's an issue. I mean, something coming up that's in that territory that they are representing.
Right.
And a lot of people say, well, if I'm going to serve, some I know, if I'm going to serve on the board, then I need to be able to vote too.
I think we gave up on filling those positions some time ago. Yep. All right, any others?
No,
All right,
that's it. Thank you.
where am I at? Have a motion and a second? Okay,
Just need to vote on it.
all right, thank you, ma'am. Have a motion and a second. Any more questions? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Thank you, ma'am. All right, that is item number 29. We are now on item number 30, which is commissioner comments. Anyone have anything for the bottom of the Nash County they'd like to say as the board member? Please come forward.
Got a couple of things I'd like to mention.
Sure.
We've got our May 23rd mid-month meeting, and I believe that that meeting is going to probably consume a lot of time related to the budget. It will be my recommendation that we not schedule presentations, that we focus on the budget at that May 23rd meeting. If anyone has a committee report that's significant and they want to make that report, then I think that would be fine, but otherwise I would focus on the budget. Second thing I wanted to mention was, I believe we've got a joint meeting with the school board tomorrow. And I think it starts at 5:30 with some type dinner, and then it starts the meeting at 6. This is Teacher Appreciation Week, so I'd recommend that we prepare a resolution and present it to the school board tomorrow night and ask that they disseminate that resolution across all the schools in the district. I think we should show our appreciation to our teachers.
Is that something you
Well-
can accomplish between now and then?
Yes.
Okay, and Mr. Attorney, can we pass a resolution in advance in that manner?
Well, I think you could certainly pass a recommendation that you prepare one for your adoption by review by email or whatever.
Okay. All right. Mr. Outlaw, if you'd like to make a motion that we adopt one, as Mr. Durham pointed out, I think that'd be appropriate this time.
Sir, I move that staff prepare a resolution for teacher appreciation, and that resolution be presented at our joint meeting with the school board on May the 3rd, and that resolution would request that they disseminate it across the school district by providing it to the principal of each school.
We can actually take action on that at the meeting tomorrow night.
Yes.
Good point. Okay. While we're on that meeting, Stacy, have we prepared that agenda?
It's a work in progress.
Okay. It'll get to us sometime in the morning then, I guess, or maybe, are you going to give it out? So what's your intent on that?
Well, as the chairman, you will probably see it this evening.
Okay, that's fine. Because I generally will provide it for a previous request. Mr. Outlaw.
Previously mentioned SROs, would you plan to have that as an agenda item for general discussion? SROs, school resource officers, I just want to see where the school stands, their feelings on security at these elementary schools.
Outlaw, my last thought on that was, said, where did it come from? Help me remember, but we were working along the lines of putting more cameras in, and I know I'm sure that was his suggestion.
That's fine. All I want to hear from the school system is that based upon the sheriff's office recommendation or wherever they got it, that they are comfortable, that they've got adequate security in the elementary schools, and there's no need to look at SROs, because I'm hearing that from various individuals in the public. So it may not be a need, but I need to hear that said. It doesn't take but one shot in a school, and then amazingly, we'll find all kinds of funding to put SROs in these schools. I just want to hear the school system tell us that they're comfortable with what they've got.
Mm-hmm. And they may say they are, but you never know. We got a lot of people walking around here with mental problems, and they get excited to do something, and you don't know the minute or the hour when it may happen.
I have got that as a legislative goal for Ms. McGee, and hopefully this board will discuss that with our local legislators to see what their thoughts are. And I assume that we're okay on the 23rd to focus on budget rather than presentations.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you.
What time is that?
The meeting tomorrow night?
No.
Oh, the
23rd.
1:30. Our standard time.
All right.
On that date. And everybody remember, it is at the Red Oak Volunteer Fire Department rather than at Nash Community College, because it was already booked at the time. All right, other commissioners have comments? I will update you on the housing report. This month of April, we had 45 new home permits, which I think is excellent. That's a lot of homes in Nash County in a month. We had it by 19 different builders, which is also very good. And quite frankly, again, they were dispersed throughout the county pretty well. I did played with the numbers quite a bit more last night and added them all up and divided it by the number, and the average home cost of those new permits was $247,220, which has got to be an all-time high for an average home cost, a new home in Nash County as well. And just to carry it a little bit further, if you take that and once it gets built, goes on the tax rolls. If it goes on the tax rolls at the same thing the permit was issued for, which it probably shouldn't do that, it will probably be significantly more than that when we actually do our appraisal of it. That would actually put $10,630,000 more total assessed value in on our tax rolls in Nash County, just to show that home building is a very large part of our revenue increase, and that would actually equate to $670,000 more dollars taxes collected that we would have each year from that point moving forward. I just thought that was pretty interesting, and I know some of you don't enjoy playing with numbers like I do, but still it was very interesting to work through that thing. But 45 new home permits is darn good for Nash County. The other thing I'm just going to briefly say on the budget, you know, we were right in the middle of budget. There's a lot of strong feelings this way and that way, and I would just like to point out that we do have quite a bit more work to go on the budget. No decisions certainly have been made at this point in time. If you hear or get called about we've done this or we've done that, we really haven't done anything on the budget yet, and hopefully we'll take another step on the 23rd, but just be patient and give staff time to analyze everything and see where we are. I think the key thing is to get our revenues projected right, which is the easy side of it, and then we'll have to work on each individual request. We all know that we have more requests than we got funding available for, and there will be some adjustments of what those are. None of us know at this point in time, but I just ask for your patience moving forward, and I assure you this board will get it right when we do finally adopt a final budget, and the staff will bring us one that I hope that the board will live with without too much work moving forward. Just ask for your patience and not get too excited on anything. And that's pretty much all I had. I would like to, and each commissioner can do this, if you got something you think is good for Nash County, you want to brag a little bit, take this time to do that as well. I did have a very exciting day yesterday, and I was able to go to Chapel Hill, to the Memorial Hall, to witness my 13-year-old granddaughter who won a seat on the state band concert, one of 3 in Nash County, and one of about 212 in the state, but never been anything like that. It was pretty fascinating, and thoroughly enjoyed attending that. And on behalf of the 3 students from Nash County, I'd just like to give them a congratulations from the board. They were well represented, and pretty exciting time, particularly for middle school kids. And that was the first time they had had it in 3 years, and the majority of them there, quite frankly, had been selected the year before or the year before that. And so there weren't particularly many new ones there, but 2 out of the 3 from Nash County got accepted this year. So I thought that was a pretty major accomplishment. And with that said, if there's no other comments from...
Well, if you want to brag a little bit.
Yes, sir.
Let me brag a little bit.
Please do.
My grandson works with the baseball program at North Carolina Wesleyan. Wesleyan went down to Methodist over the weekend, a playoff to determine home field advantage. They lost the first game, I believe, 10-9. They went back Saturday and Sunday. They won both of those games. They won Sunday 19-7. So Wesleyan is well positioned to win the conference tournament, I hope. Go Bishops.
All right. Right.
And they will also be the hosts.
That's right.
They play on the Wesleyan field?
That's my understanding.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
If they'd have lost, they would have went somewhere like Alabama, I heard.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Help TD out, so. Anybody else got any good news for the county?
Well, this to me, it's good news, but I was just thinking, this coming Thursday is the National Day of Prayer.
Yes, sir.
Started by President Ronald Reagan when he was in office.
Yes, sir.
And I don't know if anything is planned here. I do know in the city of Rocky Mount, they're going to have prayer breakfast. Now, I don't know what the county has or any of the municipalities have out here. But if we don't have anything planned, maybe we could do a resolution.
Okay. Other thoughts, other ideas?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to make everyone aware, if you're not, tomorrow at 10, I believe at Inglewood Baptist, is the Peace Officers Memorial Service.
Did see that. Sure did. Big event. All right, we'll turn it over to you for the manager's report, ma'am.
Thank you. On Wednesday last week, Donna Wood, Ted Cole with Davenport, and myself were on a WebEx call with representatives from Standard & Poor's concerning our S&P credit rating. We had a very good phone call with them, about an hour and a half. So we're hoping to hear some good news, possibly. I think Ted was estimating 4 to 6 weeks. We should hear something back from that. So that was very positive. They reached out to us.
Is that to maintain or possibly to better our credit rating?
Better.
Better, okay, great.
Also, on Wednesday last week, Nash County was recognized at the annual United Way Community Champions Luncheon and received the Spirit of North Carolina Award. And Mr. Boone was also recognized and received the President's Award. And I also want to thank Mr. Boone for agreeing to head up our Nash County employee campaign moving forward. I appreciate his work, and we were glad that he got recognized with the President's Award last week. On Saturday, a little bit of bragging on our Parks and Recreation Department. They hosted the second annual Community Day and Mother-Son Luau at Miracle Park at Cooper's. And at the sheriff's request, one of my first meetings with him, he suggested that we think about offering some interdepartmental activities for members of our different departments to interact with one another. And I did take that idea to Thomas Gillespie, and so he planned a kickball tournament. So we had our sheriff's office employees play against our emergency services employees in a kickball tournament, and that was a very successful day. So I wanted to thank everyone for their participation, and I did see that Mr. Outlaw and Mr. Davis were able to make it out there. If others of you made it out there, I'm glad that you were able to do that and see our employees in action, and that park very active that day from one end of it to the other. So it was a great day on Saturday.
Did we have any injuries in the kickball?
No, I think we're okay.
That's good.
Well, we did have some minor injuries, but nothing that we need
No
to...
lost time work
No.
accidents?
No. Misty was sore this morning, she said.
Well, I was kidding with her.
Yeah. So the commissioners that participate on the Land Use Plan Steering Committee, if you don't mind taking a look at your calendars, Mr. Tyson asked if I would go ahead and just try to get a feel for what would be a good date for a next steering committee meeting. We're going to come back together and regroup one more time before we do any more public meetings. If you would look at your calendars and let me know about June 21st, 22nd, or 23rd, if any of those days just absolutely do not work for the three of you.
Still 4 o'clock?
Yes.
Which dates?
June 21st, 22nd, and 23rd.
I'll be out of town that week.
That week? Okay.
We need her there.
Yes, sir. So I'll get back with Adam and I'll be reaching out to each of you moving forward. My next item was that tomorrow, Attorney General Josh Stein will be at the Nash Auditorium located at 2460 Curtis Ellis Drive at 3 p.m. to attend the CARE Coalition meeting. The purpose of his visit is to discuss the efforts to fight the opioid epidemic. Attorney General Stein led the national negotiations that led to the $26 billion opioid settlement, of which North Carolina is receiving $750 million for treatment, recovery, and prevention services. I've heard from a couple of you, but if you do plan on attending that, if you'll just let me know by the end of the day today, so that I can let the folks at the hospital know as they plan setting up the room for that event tomorrow. Again, that's 2460 Curtis Ellis Drive at 3 p.m., the Nash Auditorium.
Is that auditorium located in the building, in the hospital building? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This has already been mentioned again, but I just wanted to remind you about your joint meeting tomorrow night with the Nash County Public Schools, the Nash Community Library at Red Oak Fire Department. Dinner will be served at 5:30 and the meeting will start at 6 p.m. And we have our legislative dinner scheduled for Wednesday, May the 11th at 6 p.m. at Rib Eyes in Nashville. Earlier, you approved a resolution or proclamation about EMS Appreciation Week, the week of May 16th. On Wednesday that week, May the 18th, between 12 and 1, they're doing a lunch at Station 800. That's the station on the hospital campus. If you'll mark your calendars, if you're available, please come over and join our EMS staff at Station 800 for lunch to recognize them.
That date, one more time.
May 18th from 12 to 1.
Thank you.
Busy week that week. The very next day, May the 19th, is the Soil and Water Conservation District's Catfish Luncheon at 12 p.m. at the Agriculture Center. Does anybody need me to repeat any of those? Okay. We've already been reminded we do have a second meeting this month on the 23rd at 1:30 p.m. And then I also just wanted to mention at the end of the month, county offices will be closed on Monday, May 30th in recognition of Memorial Day. And that concludes my comments. Maybe it doesn't conclude my comments. May the 23rd, right, sorry. May the 23rd, we're doing that at 12:30. At 12:30 before our meeting, an hour before our meeting on the 23rd, Citizens Academy graduation will be held in the break room up here on the 3rd floor. If you can please put that on your calendar and plan to attend. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And now I think I'm done.
That it?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. One more item.
Take it down.
I did want to thank Mr. Rogers for filling in my absence and continuing to assist me during this time. He was instrumental in getting the DOT resolution prepared for the meeting this morning, as well as your request to get a thank you letter together for Capital Broadcasting Company for the parking lot addition that they added out there across from the farmers market. So at the end of the meeting today, I've got a thank you letter with a place for each one of the board members to sign at the bottom. So we'll be passing that around for you to sign, and we can send that off. And again, thank you, Scott, for helping to prepare those items.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Manager, would you repeat the Citizens Academy info?
That is on May the 23rd at 12:30. Our meeting on that day is at 1:30, so an hour before our meeting, and they'll do their graduation over in the break room up here on the 3rd floor.
Going once?
I'm good.
Okay.
If not, I'll save it.
Okay. No? just holler. Madam Clerk, you have lunch here for the commission, and it's presently here.
Yes, sir.
Okay. If there's no other business in public session at this time, I would first like to call for a lunch recess that we'll take for about 20 minutes, and before we leave, we will call for a closed session. And in the closed session, it will be for economic development and matters of attorney-client privileges, and to my knowledge, Vince, correct me, there probably will be no action taken in this. Okay, so we would not expect any action to be taken, but we will return to this room for closing out the meeting. And when we close out, it will be a recess until tomorrow night at the Red Oak Fire Department. But at this time, I'd entertain a motion to go into closed session immediately after having the lunch.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wilkins, second by Commissioner Outlaw. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. We stand moving into closed session or recess time in closed session. Thank you.